You guys ready?
Yeah.
Ready?
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Yeah, I don't really know how to start yet, but it's probably going to be something like, welcome to Late to the Movies. I'm Ben Holtz. I forgot to say my name the last 2 episodes. And this is a podcast where my friends and I get to fill in our movie blind spots. Every week, we'll pick a movie that either I or a guest hasn't seen before, but really should have by now. This week, the movie is Silence of the Lambs. And this week, once again, the newbie is Robbie.
Yeah.
You know, I'm thinking like at a certain point, you could have just named it Movies Robbie Hasn't Seen.
I'm fine with that.
And I swear I had that thought before. Earlier this week, I saw on Instagram that, I don't know if you guys have ever listened to Comedy Bang Bang.
Nope.
So it's huge. It's great. It's one of the first podcasts I listened to. It's been around forever. And I feel like just in the last couple of weeks, the host of that show started a new podcast called Scott Hasn't Seen, where he watches movies he hasn't seen before and talks about them.
Oh, damn.
He's not from Germany by any chance,
No,
is he?
I don't think he's from Germany, the UK, or Russia. So I just want to put that out there that we started doing this a few months ago. I didn't know about that show yet.
Should we
Not that
get
I-
a cease and desist together?
I don't think so. Not that anyone has rights over the idea of watching a movie, but just to say, it is pretty similar. We have a couple of returning champions. You've already heard their voices. That's Greg and Ray. Hey, guys.
Hey.
You guys were on the Spirited Away episode, and this one is basically the opposite, is what I wrote here.
Yeah, my 2 favorite genres, happy animated looking stuff and serial killers.
If I thought about it more, there's probably more interesting things. They both have tiny women in the center of them, but beyond that, I don't know.
We just like a strong female character, I guess.
Yeah, I want myself a strong female lead.
But yeah, we're doing one of those movies for sure today in Silence of the Lambs. Before we get into that, though, I was remiss in the last episode not to mention our international number still growing strong. We now, in addition to Germany, we have Russia and the UK each putting up huge numbers on our episode. So I just want to give a hearty Guten Tag, Privyet, and all right, mate. And that'll be my hello to our international listeners. As you guys know, we usually start by just talking about random crap for a while. So what have you guys been watching?
What have we been watching? Honestly, do we have UK listeners?
Sure.
Oh, yeah. Great British Bake Off.
It's either UK listeners or you on a VPN.
Okay, so we don't have any UK listeners. We've been watching the Great British Bake Off.
Nice.
What else have we been watching? I feel like there was something else.
New
we were
episodes?
Watching. Oh, we watched Squid Game.
We did.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, new episodes and old episodes.
Gotcha.
Nice comfort show.
Yeah.
When you don't really want to pay attention to TV, that's ours.
We're talking Squid Game?
No.
Oh, okay.
Great British Bake Off's a comfort
okay.
show.
Gotcha.
Been getting our bake off on.
Yes, but we did also watch Squid Game in between very recently.
Nice. Do you like the new hosts? Not of Squid Game, of British Bake Off.
Oh, yeah. I feel like every time they have a new host, we're very skeptical, but within the first episode, we're like, no, this is great.
Every now and then they'll have these jokes, and I'm like, maybe British people think these are funny, but I get a good laugh thinking that British people think it's funny.
Yes.
And then obviously
We laugh because we're missing the joke.
Yeah.
Yes. But they're pretty funny. I enjoy them. They're fucking weird, but
Yeah. So Noel Fielding.
weirdest guy I've ever met in my life. Love him.
And
He
from
makes the show.
the previous hosts, I guess, Mel
Yep.
Goodrich, whatever. They're both on different seasons. I think it might be the same season. No, it's different seasons of the show Taskmaster, which is a British panel show
Oh, you like that one.
that
right?
translates a lot better to American sensibilities. I feel like a lot of the British panel shows, I just feel like I'm missing every single joke. But that one is about making people do stupid things, and that translates in every language, I feel like,
Yep.
in every culture. How about you, Robbie? Watching anything
Well,
recently?
I finished Brooklyn Nine-Nine for the 3rd time.
There you go.
I was on it the last time you asked that, so I went back to Parks and Rec. I pretty much just binge things while
Glad
I
you're
wait
doing
for
that
you to...
instead of watching new stuff.
Yeah, no, I will never watch Firefly.
I was about to say, watch fucking Firefly.
I do need to watch
It's like
Firefly.
8 episodes. Just watch it.
It's like my one movie, you know, the one where everyone's like, you have to see this. That's Firefly in this TV show.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay. One day.
Yeah, I mean, if you watch all, 8 episodes and the movie, that's about as long as Squid Game, probably.
Yes.
Instead, you're watching Community for the how manyth time?
Parks and Rec and probably like 15th. I fucking love
Yeah.
that show.
You just loop.
I just loop.
Yeah.
Well, it's like I don't have to pay attention. I just put it on and do whatever.
Yeah. Just that sweet,
Comfort
sweet
show.
second term Obama optimism.
Oh man. Oof. Yeah, that's some hardcore nostalgia right there.
So, not that I'm trying to put it off or anything, but that was fun. And now let's talk about Silence of the Lambs. I said last time you guys were on for Spirited Away that maybe is the best movie we'll ever do on this podcast. And you somehow finagled into doing another one that might be the best movie we'll ever do on this podcast. You will be paying for that soon.
Let me check my notes. I have one thing written down. This movie is good.
Yeah.
And that's all I got for this one.
And you'll be paying in the form of watching Muppet Christmas Carol, and that'll come soon. Which to me is also one of the best movies we'll ever do. I don't
honestly
think you'll feel that
super
way.
excited to watch Muppet Christmas Carol and then come on here and tell everyone how fucking shitty it is.
What if you're watching it and Ren sees you and now she loves Muppets?
No, I'm gonna wait till she's asleep.
I've tried to get her to watch the Muppets, and she will
And she knows
not.
they suck.
Yeah.
All right.
And then like later on when she's a teenager, you'll go into her room and she'll have Kermit posters up everywhere, and she'll be like, "I learned by watching you."
Oh my god.
It's the one with your face on it. How did you get this? This is Spencer's?
The internet's forever, you know. So, Silence of the Lambs.
Oh, yeah.
I'm curious, Robbie, you haven't seen this before, but surely you've seen like pieces and bits and clips here because it's just unavoidable, I feel like.
I've honestly never seen actual pieces or clips because I'm highly squeamish. So, like, honestly, when we got to the middle of the movie, I had to pause like 6 times and like get up and walk around. Like when he was like tying people to a cage with their fucking insides cut out.
Mhm.
That was the one part I was like, oh, I don't think Robbie's gonna like this part.
I did
But-
not like that part.
But that's like the only part I feel like, really.
Everything else was fine. That part, there was at one point where like I actually had to like dive into my bed, and Sydney sensed that something was up and like head up against my chin. Like
Sydney's
I
a
don't know.
dog, just
Sydney's my dog. It felt like she was like a therapy dog for a second. I'm like, do you realize I'm having an anxiety attack? Like that's
probably they're
crazy.
smart.
Yeah, it was nuts. But
Yeah, this movie goes to some real places after ramping up a little bit. But when you say you hadn't seen bits and pieces, but you were probably familiar with some of the more parodied aspects. Last episode you and I did was Dead Poet Society, another one where there's a lot of parodied aspects of the movie that get filtered out into pop culture and kind of bastardized and stuff. And that's super true of this movie also.
well, yeah, I mean, I've seen Joe Dirt,
I was
so
gonna say,
the Buffalo
he
Bill
is trapped
scene,
in the
it
well,
was
right?
pretty spot on as far as like those two scenes go. Just a little more comical in Joe Dirt, of course.
Pretty much any 90s, and that's even like early thousands, I guess, comedy has a Buffalo Bill joke in it, I feel like. And you guys love this movie.
I
Yep.
love this movie.
Or was it
That's
just
awesome.
Greg? Greg was more vocal, but you love this movie too?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's one of my favorites, but it's not like the canned favorite that I'll tell everybody because I feel like they'll judge me pretty hard on that.
I feel like it's one of my favorites, but it's not in line with a lot of the other ones where it's a movie where I'm like, yeah, I want to watch this all the time. It's great, but it's not a movie that's like, yeah, you know, I'd love to throw Silence of the Lambs on for a little bit, you know.
I actually did that when it was on Netflix.
Occasionally, yeah, but it's not very much the opposite of like your comfort.
It's definitely not a
movies.
feel-good movie. No.
No.
It's so cool though, and it is really watchable. I wouldn't call it comfort food, but maybe not the right word choice for this particular movie.
The
But
white girl in me, like in the serial killer stuff.
Hopefully it's
right, well, interesting point. Yeah,
it's not too reductive to say, but it's almost like a really intense, very good Law and Order episode. Like if like without the trial part, but it feels very much like that whole like very intense like drama based.
Yeah, it's like a
Yeah, and I think
Police
Law and Order
thriller
came out
kinda
in
thing.
like 1998,
Oh yeah,
something like that. So this was 91. So this kind of started all of that trend of serial killer and crime documentary kind of stuff.
that's exactly right. If you look at the top podcasts and Apple Podcasts, if you look at the top TV shows, not just Law and Order, but to CSI, NCIS, definitely Criminal Minds, any of those shows that ever have any kind of weird serial killer plot, it's taking a lot from this. And this movie is such a phenomenon when it comes out, and makes it seem like there's a big change at the Oscars. It wins the big 5 categories. And then the Oscars goes back to rewarding stuff like Forrest Gump within the next couple years. So it's maybe not the sea change that it seemed at the time when it won Best Actor, Director, Actress.
This is a podcast.
Adapted
Greg, you can't see your
Screenplay,
face.
and obviously Best Picture as well. At the 92, I want to say, ceremony. So yeah, great movie. And what?
Nothing. It's fine.
We'll get to it eventually. That'll be Forrest Gump will be my Muppet Christmas Carol.
It is going to be your Muppet Christmas.
I don't understand why you like that movie. You're not 70. You just
know.
like the good old days? I don't
Yeah.
get it. Okay.
The first time I ever did see it was on VHS at my grandma's house.
It's so good.
I don't know if they ever made anything beyond VHS of that.
Probably they did. They did.
Greg has the DVD.
You have to actually like get it in the mail from Netflix still.
No, it's in the $5 bin at Walmart
Yeah.
when they just have
I
a
have,
big
like-
pile of DVDs.
I have like 6 movies on DVD, and that's one of them.
It's right there.
Oof. Well, we're talking about Silence of the Lambs today.
Which we also have on DVD.
As it's a great movie. You have perhaps it must be like a collector's item because you have a 2-pack of Silence of the Lambs and Hannibal, which came out 10 years later, but you've got them together.
Yeah.
Mhm.
10
Yeah.
years later. That's
10 years later, Anthony Hopkins trying to play the same age.
And like I told you, the quote on the back of the box that it's one of the rare cases where the sequel is better than the original.
at making us money.
Because the sequel won just every category at the Oscars, right? Every single one, if I remember correctly.
I think the opposite.
Oh.
We should see if it won any Razzies. I don't know if it was quite that bad. It's still a Ridley Scott movie, and Big T was in it. Tony Hop, our favorite.
Told
guy.
you called him Tony Hop. His boy.
Hawk. I was like, what?
Tony Hop.
Yeah, no. It's
Every
like
time
Tony
you
Hawk,
say
but
it, I
Tony
just
Hawk.
like cringe a little.
I'm going to refer to him as Tony for the rest of this.
Yeah.
No,
so
I don't like that.
To
We just
sort
have
of
such a close
center it
relationship.
in what I remember about it going in, it's a movie I've seen a bunch of times, but it's awesome. The director's Jonathan Demme. He's great. We can get more into him and his extremely empathetic approach to filmmaking. Probably his best movie, maybe. I don't know. It's up there for him at least. Jodie Foster and Anthony Hopkins, huge in this movie. It's Jodie Foster's second Oscar, Tony's first. He just won his second as we're recording this at the most recent Oscar ceremony. And those were the main things in my mind going in. Obviously, a few of the quotes, the kind of Mandela effect of "Hello, Clarice," which isn't the line he says when they meet, but that is still probably the most famous line from the movie, even though it's not in the movie.
Was it on a poster? Is that what happened? Like, did
I don't
they do like a
think
Hello
so.
Clarice poster?
I don't think so. I think it just it's just one of those mind things. Everyone's like, yeah, that's what he says, right? Because in the parodies of it, that's what he says.
Gotcha.
I think just the way he says her name
I
is
was
just
gonna
like
say.
so like iconic that people are just like, oh, that's got to be what it was.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
They can remember how he said hello. They can remember it was her name. Whatever.
Yeah, but yeah, that scene, obviously, Buffalo Bill, puts the lotion on the skin scene.
Yeah.
Tony saying Chianti and fava beans. And
Yeah. I love that part.
Now I get the Clerks reference where he's like, "Would you fuck me? I'd fuck me."
Mhm.
That's
Buffalo
yeah.
Bill.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yep.
Indeed.
Who's the actor who plays Buffalo Bill?
Ted Levine. I don't know, maybe he pronounces it Levine, but I think it's Ted Levine.
Is there other things he's been in? I feel like I've never seen him besides this one.
So he also was one of the main characters in Monk, playing in a very different mode.
I haven't seen it, but yeah, that's a big one.
Mm-hmm. I don't remember what he does in Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, but that's the second new Jurassic Park movie. He's in that.
Okay, now I gotta
I'm
go
gonna
find
have
out.
to go
Yeah.
find that, yeah.
He's in the first Fast and Furious.
Okay, he's got a wide range on his resume over
He's
here.
all
huh?
over the place.
If we could find someone that hasn't seen Fast and the Furious, that would be a good one.
I bet we know people who haven't seen all 9 Fast and Furious movies.
No.
But guy who plays Buffalo Bill, gotta applaud him. He's given this script, like, this is what we want you to do, and he says, "Yeah, I'm all about this.
I'm
Let's
in."
go."
Yep.
You came to the right weirdo.
Yep. It's really
Yeah.
good. And
You guys sure you don't want me to act?
You really just went for it.
and obviously more recent critical chatter around it about its depiction of trans people. And we'll get into that as the movie does too, once we talk about a brief plot summary from Robbie once again.
All right. So, starts off with Clarice doing some athletic activities, cuts to her being pulled out of them to go meet with FBI director guy, and she's going to go talk to Hannibal Lecter, a very dangerous cannibal Lecter. So goes to talk to him. He's really creepy and like psychologically intelligent. I don't know how to describe him. It's Hannibal Lecter, you know who he is. And you know, it's a game of cat and mouse. They're looking for Buffalo Bill. Eventually they're able to find him with some trickery from Lecter. FBI goes off in the wrong direction. Clarice is the only one that actually knows what she's doing, and she finds Buffalo Bill and manages to save the senator's daughter. And that's
Yeah,
basically the movie.
That is essentially it.
Buffalo Bill does some weird stuff, but we already kind of talked about that. Yeah.
I think that's a good overview.
Pretty much, yeah. Once the movie started, my first note was, this is an aside, but it took me way too long to reset motion smoothing on my TV. It took forever. I don't know why. I guess I must have changed the HDR settings, and then I had to go back and reset motion smoothing so Tom Cruise wouldn't be mad at me. That's a longer story. Starting at Quantico, young Jodie Foster, maybe not even friends with Mel Gibson yet. It's my next line. And
she doesn't even know what she wants.
yeah, the opening of this movie is awesome.
It's great.
I forgot.
That's what Greg was saying too. He was
Like
"Wow,
the
this is
music
the best."
and like them like going through the woods and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It really sets a tone.
I was gonna say it's the first time I mentioned the opening. I know I glanced over it, but like I felt like it was important to mention the opening. Like,
Yeah.
So sweaty.
It's so,
she was
it's
really
so
like
good.
that. She's so sweaty.
Specifically, and she's
Love
like in the elevator. She does not look uncomfortable whatsoever. There's a bunch of dudes in business suits, and she's just dripped. It's like, yep, I called the office. I don't know what you want me to do.
That
like,
dude scene happens a couple times too, and I love it every time.
There's a lot of dude scenes in this movie.
Yeah.
There was not one single guy she went up to that did not immediately hit on her. The entire movie, except for Buffalo Bill.
They're all like, they all stare at her and stuff too, and that's like a thing too, because Lecter mentions it to her at one point. Like you can feel the eyes on you all the time, can't you? Like you know what they're thinking, and like
They covet what they know, what they see every day,
Yeah.
right?
Well, and you see the inmates are crazy with that, but like the psychiatrist, like in charge, that first guy, like, what are you doing in town? It'd be good to have and then like she goes to the small town to find Buffalo Bill, and the guy just straight up like, you should let me take you out. She's hunting a criminal right now.
she's very clearly working. Like every single time, she's very
agent
clearly
on a
at work.
murderer's trail.
I'm
Yes.
doing something very important right now.
All these people she's meeting are for work purposes, every single one of them, and they all immediately hit on it.
Immediately, wow, you're really hot. Let's do this. Like, oh man, how does she get anything done?
Well, she barely does, but you can see she has some obviously learned skill, even though she's just an academy recruit, not a full special agent yet. In that very first scene, you mentioned Chilton, the psychiatrist running the institution that Lecter's at, comes down there and brings her down to the level that the most creepy dudes are kept at. Max
The weird
creepiness as
basement.
you get
Severe
further down.
patients.
Yes, the most severe patients are at. And she says, oh, maybe I should go in alone. And he kind of gives like a pithy, like, you could have told me that before I walked all the way down here. And you can see that she deflects it by saying like, oh, I would have been deprived of your company then.
Yeah.
And that's something that obviously she's learned, even though she's young, how to diffuse powerful dudes in situations like that. That has to be something she does multiple times every day in her job.
Yeah.
Yeah, I noticed that. It was very skillfully done.
Yeah, oh my God. This movie's so good at setting up everything, but especially the first meeting with Lecter. There's a cut where the boss starts a sentence.
Yes.
And she says, oh, what is he?
Mm-hmm.
And then the Chilton guy answers, he's a monster.
Yep.
And you're in a different location, but
Love
it's
it.
continuing the same conversation with different characters.
Yep.
So good. Also, a just really efficient way to set up a guy when he says, oh, you're assignment is Hannibal Lecter, and she goes, "Oh, Hannibal, Hannibal," and you're like, "Oh, well, that's a fun name for a dude." And I feel like most of the time when he's referred to, you don't hear his name Hannibal a lot. I don't know if anyone else even says Hannibal the Cannibal the rest of the movie.
Nope.
But it's effective even just once.
We were talking about it after we watched it, and we think one of the best parts about him is how they give you just the right amount of information about him. He's Hannibal the Cannibal. He was arrested. He's here, and you know he killed a census taker, and that's it. You don't know how many people you killed, what he did exactly, other than the fact that he's Hannibal the Cannibal.
How he got caught. You know nothing about his history.
You know that he's
Nothing about his
incredibly
crimes.
dangerous, though, because they
Yes.
also give you that blurb of like somebody got close and he like ate their face off before the guards could come. So,
Yep.
but again, you don't know what crimes he did. You just
You know he's smart, he's dangerous,
incredibly dangerous.
but you know nothing about his history. Like, they provide you none of that.
And then you see him and he's like a 50-year-old man in the corner of a cell, and it's like, this guy is the most wanted, dangerous murderer I've ever met. Like,
That's why you mentioned the prequel earlier. I'm like, I don't care. I don't want to know anything about his story. I know enough.
oh, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I can, like, leaving it up to the imagination is better.
Well, it's good because it's not good.
So the intro is just so well pitched at every moment. Even seeing this movie a bunch of times, you still feel like this is terrifying as she's walking in to meet this dude. And there's a few other, three other inmates down there, and they're all super creepy in different sort of stereotypical kind of crazy person that you see in a movie ways. And then she comes around the corner to look into his cell, and he's standing at a very weird angle, his
I
hands
love it.
Totally
straight
rigid.
down,
In the
Yeah.
middle of his
In the
room
middle of the
doing
room.
nothing.
and just says,
Waiting.
"Good morning." And it's like, oh, that's actually the creepiest dude here by far.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
the problem.
Not the dude who's like hanging off the bars of his cell like Spider-Man. It's this guy who's just creeping out.
Being a big old creep.
So this obviously has a ton of iconic lines in it. Anthony Hopkins isn't in the movie a ton, more than a lot of the. There's always the stat that he's only on screen for 13 minutes or something like that. But those people who you get that number don't count when someone's talking to him and his face isn't directly on screen and stuff. So he's around more than that, but he's still not in it a ton. So
I'd be interested to see those numbers in context, though. Like, how often was Jodie Foster on the screen? It's probably only like 25 or 30 minutes.
She was in it more.
No, I know, but like when you say 13 minutes, it seems so little, but I have no frame of reference for how long anyone's in any movie.
That's fair.
He's definitely in it less than like it's not his story.
No,
It's
absolutely not.
it's
That's why he gets
Clarice-
And
Hannibal.
he was nominated for Best Actor, too. It wasn't even Best Supporting.
Oh,
You
yeah, he
know?
won best lead.
yeah. Clarice, Agent Starling, and Buffalo Bill are like it's really their story.
Hmm.
You don't get like we said.
He's really like a kind of a side character.
You don't get a lot of his story. There's that one section, the one that we'll get to, that's kind of the only the big gory scenes.
We don't have to go in order.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, he has his one section towards the end there where he's kind of fooling the FBI essentially. Which I
Sort of
love that.
kicking off the third act, he has that amazing, super iconic gambit that he does to get free.
Yes.
And then he's pretty much gone until the very last scene of the movie.
Yes, and there's that, but besides that, he's not the main character. It's not his story. That's the only part of his story this movie really tells is his escape, which is really cool. Honestly, I love that part because I feel like every time you watch it, Starling leaves after he like doesn't really give her the information. He gives her the case file. She's dragged away, and then there's like 20 minutes where it's just him doing this stuff, and that's like the longest you go without seeing Starling. And really what's happened is they like totally paused the story they were telling us to be like, here's this instead.
Right.
But you don't notice because it's so awesome. Like it's like perfect. But you really, they totally just paused the story on us, and like all the stuff they've been like building up, trying to catch Buffalo Bill. We're on a time limit here to get him before he kills this girl. We know when he's going to kill her. And they're like, but you guys really want to know what's going to happen with Lecter. So we'll come back to that.
And you're not upset about it. You don't
at
even
all.
notice.
You don't even notice.
Well, and then by the time you get back to it, they've inadvertently built the suspense because it's like, oh crap, what's been going on with that?
Awesome. Love it.
There is an element to what Demme does with this movie that is a lot of times he's showing you the different pieces that are going to make up this kind of domino effect later in the movie. And then there's other times when you realize, like in this sequence, that actually the whole movie has been setting up these dominoes. and that Lecter's been in this cell for 8 years and is the most brilliant dude in the movie and has had nothing but time to come up with a plan, and this whole thing has been him putting that plan in motion and manipulating events so he would be in a spot where he has an opportunity to do exactly this pretty much the whole time. And yeah, smart dude. And that sequence in particular is just such, I don't know. It's hard to really think of other action sequences because that's essentially an action movie sequence where you can track absolutely every bit of it down to, where he got the piece of pen he uses for the lockpick.
Yep.
You know that these guys said that they were going to be cordial to him and then were rude. So he's going to eat them because he eats rude people. You see him after killing the more senior guy with the bigger hair, picking up the switchblade, specifically calling out the dude whose face he's going to cut off.
Yep.
And saying, ready when you are, and walking over to him with the knife. You see the elevator moving in a kind of weird pattern. Which
You hear the gunshots.
You hear the gunshots. You just, every piece of it, you can track and you know where it came from and how it got to where it was. And it doesn't matter because you don't actually see the totality of it until the reveal at the end where he sits up in the back of the ambulance and takes the other dude's face off. In one of the more there's so many moments in this movie where I just want to be like, I want to be in a theater on opening night when no one knew what was about to happen in so many of these scenes.
So good. Yeah.
dude,
That's why I want to hear
on
more from Robbie.
Oh yeah, no. So I definitely I had a lot to say about this scene because like I said, it was tough for me, but this isn't the goriest thing I've ever seen before. It was just so artfully done. Like you could feel every human element and aspect of what was going on, which I just thought was absolutely incredible. And then I mean to know he's got that person's face on so I knew probably around the time when they were in the his face was all bandaged up and then they saw the other guy wasn't moving. At that point I was like, okay, he cut his face off. But what was freaking me out before that was not knowing what was going on with Lecter.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know what he did to that guard
Mm-hmm.
that was in the ambulance, not knowing it was Lecter. I was like, how bad did he fuck this guy up? You know what I like? And that was what was messing was my imagination going with it. And then when it finally clicked, I was like, oh shit, that's even crazier. So it was
yeah. There is another even bigger carpet pull in this movie that I want to save for a little bit later, but that sequence is so cool. And that basically kicks off the third act, which is this famously harrowing stretch of movie where from that scene through the end is just edge of your seat stuff the whole way.
One more thing we noticed about that scene that we liked a lot.
Yeah.
Right before he sits up in the ambulance, before he does the reveal, the guy in the ambulance, the EMT or whatever, is talking to probably a doctor or something, and he's telling the condition. He goes, his pulse is 85. And earlier in the movie, when they talk about how they give you the picture of how dangerous Lecter is, they talk about him assaulting a nurse and eating her face. And then as he finishes the story and shows the picture, he goes, the whole time his pulse never goes above 85.
Mm-hmm. The other thing, it's awesome. Yeah, the other thing Greg and I really liked about that scene too is because we really paid attention to the character building for him. That's when you realize, they never tell you what he did, how he got there, how he got caught, any of his history, any of that. But all of the cops that are in that State House building are so scared of him. There's 50 people there, and then as soon as they realize that something's wrong, they're all drenched in sweat.
Yeah,
immediately get the SWAT team.
When they come up the stairs too, you can see they're made
all
them all coated
terrified.
in sweat,
Yep.
which gave me another laugh because I noticed
love
every time
sweat
I've seen
in
this
this
movie, I noticed Starling is drenched in the beginning.
Yep.
So Demme's also really adept at comedy, and you can tell in this sequence where it all of a sudden sets up, and you've gotten such nuanced, even though they're big characters like Lecter, or just nuanced and so well played like Clarice, or whatever you want to say Ted Levine's doing with Buffalo Bill, which is so unique and so different to other performances in movies like this, that to set up the cops that go to investigate it, to put it in their perspective, the Lecter escape sequence, and you just set up with just a few lines these really broad archetypal type cop characters who seem very inept, and their leader with his ridiculous, weirdly long mustache.
It's great.
Yeah, and you're like, you know
he's
exactly
the leader.
who these guys
Yeah, just
are.
from the mustache. You're like, that's the captain or something.
I've been noticing that a lot lately in like police movies where they send the older guys in with the most dangerous people, which on one hand I get because you want the most experience, but they always get overpowered. And it's like, where's your, buff 25-year-old just backing you guys up? Because that's what these situations need.
In their defense, they got overpowered by how old is Hannibal Lecter supposed to be? You know what I mean?
55.
Honestly, I love that part too when he overpowers them because like he has a very blank expression the whole time. He like beats someone to death with like the billy club, and he's just like swinging away. There's like some music playing, and he's just
in the symphony.
yeah, he's exactly.
He doesn't go above 85.
Yep. Yep. Awesome.
So good.
Yeah, that sequence is awesome. So I'm glad we just were like, yeah, let's talk about it now.
I got it. It's just so good.
That first Clarice Lecter meeting has a lot of the iconic, but not all of the iconic lines in the movie. That's where he says, he tells her where she's from and mocks her accent and says, you know what you look like to me with your good bag and your cheap shoes. You look like a rube.
So
The way he
two
leans into
things
rube is so fun.
on the comedy thing. One, the rube thing. I mean, even when this movie came out, that was an old insult. So like it kind of it took me out of it a little bit because if somebody was like scaring the shit out of me and then all of a sudden they called me a rube, it would pull me right out. I'd be like,
Especially like you look like a rube.
I'm a rube. Like, eat me. What do you do?
Well, hey.
But so when he pulled the face off, that almost felt like comic relief at that point because he had this expression on his face and he was just like, it was like a here's Johnny, like and I don't know, at that point I expected it to come too, so it was almost like I don't know if anybody else
The prestige of the joke.
just like yep, and here he is, he's about to fuck everything up, and then they're like, yep, he killed all the EMTs,
Yeah, he stole the
and,
ambulance, he's gone.
civilian.
Yep.
That first meeting's also the census taker tested me once. I ate his liver with a fava beans and a nice Chianti.
Yep.
I wrote here.
I just can't believe how good Tony does. As
Yeah.
Don't
big-
call him
big
Tony.
T.
My God.
Big T,
Show some
I love it.
respect, man.
Maybe I'll ask him before this airs if it's okay if I call him Tony, and that'll.
He won't say yes.
You don't know that.
How old is he now?
80s, I want to say. He's old.
His last role, he did a very good job playing someone with dementia. So
Didn't even have to act. Just walked right in.
very good.
Turn on the camera.
No, but he does that. Honestly, I feel like it's all him. Honestly, that makes this character, and he sets
yeah.
it right there in that very first meeting with her.
He just goes for it so hard, Tony, like you were saying, Ray. He just goes for it so hard.
I don't know. I just couldn't picture anyone else doing the
No,
and me
I
being
can't
like,
either.
We read
I
a
can't
list
either.
of people who they considered for that role. Who
It
was
wouldn't have worked with Sean Connery.
It was
He
Sean
on
Connery.
Sean
That's
Connery.
right.
No.
No.
picture.
I ate his liver with... Yeah, no.
One.
Oh,
no.
Oh, that's horrible.
One thing I did notice is like a lot of like edgelord personalities I met in middle school made a lot more sense. Like the trying to pull off the Anthony Hopkins thing and just seeming like a creepy weirdo. And like that's what turned me off from horror movies is I was like, these seem weird.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
Well, one of the things I was reading about it too is they said that this particular villain, like there hadn't been one like this before. Like before this, every villain that was in a horror movie was like a creepy guy in a mask or like, you know, like a slasher kind of film. This was the first one where it was just a smart dude, you know, that was like kind of scary just because he was polite and like creepy.
Honestly, I think this is the greatest villain I've ever seen in a movie.
I would tend to agree. And it's not even the first time Hannibal Lecter was in a movie. The Manhunter came out a few years before, and that was Brian Cox, who now stars on Succession. But he plays him more like a normal guy. Anthony Hopkins plays him like a vampire.
interesting.
They kind of like tip at that when the guy's like, is
Yeah.
he a vampire?
Yeah.
Jodie Foster's like, why
not
are
a
you
name
should
for
be
what he
smarter if you're a cop. And no, he's not a vampire.
So is Manhunter part of the universe or is that just
I think it's a Harris novel. I'm pretty sure it's part of it.
So these are based off.
I'll
of
Google just in
books.
case.
Yeah, this is a novel, right?
Yes, it's a novel.
Gotcha. Okay.
So the 86 Manhunter is an adaptation of Red Dragon. So,
Oh, okay.
but they just didn't call it Red Dragon that time, and that's with Brian Cox's Lecter, and Brian Cox is really good, but he plays him like a more normal guy.
It's a tough. I think Anthony Hopkins was the only person that could do that.
And yeah, I don't know if it's Tony's performance or just like, because there's a lot of good setup they do for Lecter, but there's just something about him where like, I feel like normally if someone tried to sell me a villain, they're like, he's perfect, he's the smartest ever, he doesn't make any mistakes, and this, I'd be like, what? And he's like, even though he's old, he's like overpowering people and stuff, I wouldn't just not be able to buy it, you know what I mean? But they just do so good, and I don't, like I said, I don't know exactly what it is.
Well, that's why they had to keep the screen time down and the mystery, because you don't actually have to see all that stuff, so it's not as ridiculous as when you see Jason Statham going out and like actually doing it. It's just like these things happened and you have to fill in the blanks.
Yeah, I feel like intelligent characters too in general, like if someone tries to sell me on this person's the smartest, they never make any mistakes ever, you're just like, you can't buy it, but you really can with Lecter.
Yeah, it's the Studio 60 on the Sunset Strip problem, right? That came out at the same time as 30 Rock, and the in-fiction comedy show that the people on Studio 60 were making was supposed to be very good, and then they had to actually write comedy sketches to be in the show, and they were bad. Whereas on 30 Rock, the point is that the show's bad.
Yeah.
So, and one of those failed horribly after just a few episodes, and one did not. So, yeah.
Interesting.
If you tell me something, you have to actually show it and back it up too, right?
And they do, yeah.
I think just from that first time that he's on screen, what Anthony Hopkins does to be empathetic, kind of weirdly, maybe not charming, but like sort of slyly charming, and just
like politeness.
Yeah, sometimes like he can just change the gravity of a room and seem like he's 50 feet tall just by changing his tone of voice and the way he's standing. Yeah, it's just pretty incredible stuff.
I think what helped me, like them sell him to me, is when he's first having that conversation with her too, and she asks him to, like, oh, here, take the booklet, and he's like, oh, you were doing so good, you gave me, no, when you told me that embarrassing thing Miggs told you, and you made you established trust, and he's going over all like the police techniques, and I was like, oh yeah, huh, all that did happen. You're right. Yeah.
Well, I think that like that change of tone that he had, I feel like that's when I started to get really afraid of him. Like, I don't know what it was, like even him just doing the stupid fake accent, like he read right through her, and he was just so terrifying. Like in that moment, it was like, oh, okay, no, he knows everything that's going on. This is actually a kind of dangerous guy.
The one thing that I'm never sure on, him helping Agent Starling, is this all part of his plan from the beginning, or does he kind of help her because he kind of likes her?
I don't think it's necessarily just one. I think I think he senses immediately that she's probably the smartest and most interesting person he's talked to in 8 years.
That's what I was saying. Is it is a source of amusement for him.
Yeah,
too,
no, he enjoys it.
Well, I mean, just like it's game recognized game, right? Like we were talking about how she deflected, the psychologist's advances. Like she also knows how to handle people like that. She was doing it with him, and it's, oh, you're actually good at this. Like if somebody was taught you what you were doing, you'd probably be great. But like, I'm not gonna do that.
Yeah,
and it is like an actual mentor relationship. She becomes better at her job, more due to what he helps her kind of figure out than what the guy who I keep forgetting his name does.
Jack Crawford?
Yeah,
Crawford. And if he had done a better job, I'd have remembered his name.
Nah, he's not a particularly memorable character.
No.
Well,
I don't think he's supposed to be.
no.
He's like the male lead of the FBI who probably gets all the credit for what she does.
Yep.
And I think that
who seemingly gets taken off the case, but then is just on the case anyway at the end.
Yeah, I'm just gonna do that. I mean, what authority did the senator have to actually do that?
Yeah.
Oh.
But yeah, maybe she did in that state. But like they're leaving the state, like that's the FBI.
Part of the FBI. You're a senator. Like, I don't know.
It should be separate. But.
Yeah, so I always wondered, like, and that's kind of what I assumed. It was a bit of both. He's planning, but he also kind of like he does have some respect for her, because I do notice in that first scene where they meet, she's leaving without any information. She's got nothing from him. No like plans to come back until Miggs decides to like throw some bodily fluids at her, and then Tony calls her back and gives her like a tidbit of information. He apologizes for Miggs too. Like that was so like I would never do something like that.
Yeah.
But
does give her a riddle essentially.
He does give her a riddle, but that's what brings her back. Yeah. So I almost wonder like did he need to like feel a little like he was almost there like, oh, I do kind of like her, and then that was like the tipping point, like, okay, I feel bad for her, I'll give her a little something and we'll play this game.
Possibly. And
that could have been a little test for her too, like oh, maybe she'll figure this out, and if she does, she'll come back and she's like worthy of
I think so. Yeah,
playing around.
I think so for sure.
Game.
So I did want to mention, we said before that this is on TV a lot, and the first time I saw anything from this was on TV. If you see it on TV, they cut out a lot of stuff, unsurprisingly.
Yeah.
I was gonna say maybe that was the version that Robbie should have watched.
Yeah, maybe. So this scene plays out like it's just like she's leaving and it's really quiet, and then all of a sudden everyone's screaming and he's yelling about Miss Moffat.
Yes.
That's weird.
Well, they cut out the bodily fluids.
Yes.
So
I actually I saw this movie at way too young of an age. I don't know how old I was, but it was on TV, and like I had no idea. I had no idea what happened the whole time. It's just like, oh, everyone went crazy, and he decided to call her back for some reason.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know why they
Crazy
had to
criminals.
cut out. It was spit. It wasn't like it was, or no, was it cum?
yeah.
Oh shit!
He's jacking off on the bed. You can see he's like
he's like
over,
doing that on the bed,
and then he like says something to get her to look at him, and then as soon as she looks at him, he throws it and lands it in her hair.
He pretends like he bit his wrist and he's like bleeding out, and then he goes,
look.
"Here, look,"
and he chucks it at her.
So I was expecting blood. I saw what hit her, and I was like, "Oh, it must be spit." But yeah, no, it makes much more sense.
And that's why she's like, up to this point, she's been totally composed about everything that's happened, and she does like have a face when this happens. Like she's obviously this is a bit more than she's bargained for at this point. Like you know what I mean?
No. Yeah.
Yep.
And then this also leads to Miggs dying, which is something else I really like.
Because he was rude.
He was. I feel like it just really is another point where they sell you on Lecter, because she gets a phone call saying, Miggs is dead, and the only information they give you was, the orderlies heard Hannibal like whispering to him all night, and that's all it took.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
And then we really liked that line the next time that they have that conversation. And I forgot. Oh, Hannibal asks her if she thinks that Jack Crawford likes her, like finds her attractive sexually, and she says, "Oh, I think that's something that Miggs would say." And he goes, "Not anymore." we both just died.
Yeah, we're like, wow, that's a fire joke.
That's definitely something I picked up on and keyed into, is like Miggs, like especially that scene really to point it out. But Miggs was like crazy and wild, and like would say those things because he was like a sexual deviant. And Lecter, even like when he gets to talk to the senator and he says those things, he'll say fucked up things, but he's doing it to see people's reactions. Like he doesn't care about these things whatsoever. It's just very interesting to see how he works that way of like, I'm going to say these things.
Toughened up your nipples, didn't it? Yeah.
Nice suit. Yeah, he just tests people.
Yeah. It's cool.
A game for
it's
him.
just a very interesting, like, yeah.
We did notice for the first time ever that he's referred to as multiple Miggs one time.
I had noticed that before, and that's
I'd
what
never
made me
noticed that
wonder if it was
before.
a novel. Because I was like, oh, I wonder if he has like a backstory that didn't make the movie.
Oh, okay.
I think you just get from that he's schizophrenic.
That's
right?
all. Yeah, that's what I said.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, that's all you really need.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
As she leaves, she has, just to quickly mention the one part of the movie that I think doesn't work, is as she leaves, she has a flashback to her father coming home from work. And later on, she has a different flashback when they're in a funeral parlor of her father's wake. And I don't think the flashbacks work that well. Everything else in the movie's good. I don't think the flashbacks are that good.
I don't
fine.
mind them, but
Yeah.
I
I
think
kind of like the backstory because Dr. Lecter was
But you
wrong.
get it just from her saying it.
Yeah, but he guessed that her father was a coal miner. Remember, and she didn't
Oh,
say
yeah.
anything, and it's like, oh no, actually, my
Coal
dad
miner.
was a cop, and yeah.
yeah, I feel like you could cut them though and not affect the movie really,
Yeah, and like I said, it's not
because you get enough of the
a huge
backstory.
problem for
That's
me.
true.
They're very short sequences, but it's just kind of
Yeah.
like,
I just felt the whole like her wandering into the other funeral thing was weird in general. Like, why would she do that in the first place?
Yeah.
To like set up that flashback. So
Well, she
I,
doesn't.
Well, she didn't. She was that was
When the
She-
flashback
she
ends, she hasn't
pictures-
actually gone in.
Yeah.
she just looked through the door.
Okay, okay.
Because Greg said the same thing.
Yeah, I was like, oh no, because that's just the flashback. But it's a kind of a weird scene. That one, it's not the best.
I think they're just trying to show like how important her dad was, because to set up the whole like lambs thing.
there's plenty of like airplane scenes to do that on though, where
Yeah.
you could put the flashback in anywhere. Just didn't have to be there. It's fine. I guess they won the Oscar. So.
Yeah, they did.
All of them.
So
Could have won more if they listened to me.
yeah. So Hopkins sends her to the storage unit after she figures out the riddle. She finds a heavily make-upped dude's head in a jar.
That's a very tough riddle, by the way. I never would have figured that out.
Yeah.
I'm still not sure what. It's because he said yourself at some point.
He
so
said,
it was
"Look
a-
inside yourself," and she was like,
That's a
he-
weird thing for him to.
"He
have
wouldn't
said, yeah.
say that. Like that's not
It's too hokey.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
So
not
she-
something he would
yeah.
say. So she's like, yourself has to be something else.
Right,
Yep.
right.
I also thought it was really funny because when she went to go into the storage unit, right? She went to go open the door, and like she's, this young, like kind of fit FBI agent. She can't open the door, and then that old dude's like, "Oh, do you want me to help you with it?" And I'm like, "Come on, the old dude's gonna do it."
And I also
It's just a whole nother like chivalry kind of thing.
Yeah, that guy had like a whole story that just like it's some old dude in like a bowler hat who has his own driver that owns
I
the storage
love it.
facility.
This weird mustache.
Yeah.
I was just,
I-
what is
It's like the
going on
Monopoly
here?
man is just like, I own this random storage
I
unit.
particularly love too that she like looks over to his like driver or something, and he's like, "Oh, I would ask him, but he doesn't like physical labor." And I'm like, you went all the way to explain to me why this dude couldn't come and do it, but this guy could just not had a driver at all. But I just love that like there's someone there who could have done it and just it won't. And she's like, okay, fuck it, I'll just do this myself, kind of thing.
My take on it is like what I was thinking in that whole scene was these people were in on it. And that might have been their intention, is to make these people weird, because I was anticipating like they're gonna kick out the jet. There's like
There
lot
is-
of things that could happen.
Yeah, because you do get nervous for her as she just jacks up the storage
It is
unit
just
door
weird.
enough
They're
to
just
get
weird
through.
people.
She's like going underneath, and she barely fits.
It's suspense. There's like noises that happen when she's in there, and it's the weirder these people are, and the more questions you have about them,
true.
you're just like
Because I've seen it so many times now that it's like you kind of lose some of that because that they don't do anything.
Right.
I
they're
do
just
particularly
comical at
like-
this
That's
point.
fair, yeah.
That she gives him the business card before she goes under and is like, hey, if this door falls down or like
Or anything else.
anything else, here's the FBI agent, call them. This is like, because it's just like a,
And she also said,
They know I'm with
that
you.
I'm with you.
yes.
Yeah.
She they go out of their way to show you that she knows what she's doing.
Yep.
So like, she's very talented. She's very good at this.
Like she wouldn't have fallen for the help me with this couch into the back of the car trick. No. Like she would
Every
never.
time
have
Greg
gone
and I
that way.
watch this movie, he always goes, "Never help anybody ever, especially at night."
Pretty much.
Well, and I mean, you could help people, but just don't like. You need me to help you get it up onto the edge of the car? Fine. I'm not getting into your van. Like, I don't know. Obviously, she shouldn't have
Yeah.
done that either.
totally
but like,
see
She does like think about it a lot, and then she's like, oh, I'm just fuck it.
Yeah, she
Like,
does, and he just like pushes. He's like, "Oh no, wait, just." I mean, it's really easy to fall for that.
I
He
guess.
does a good job in it because he does have the fake arm brace on at the time, and he starts by just ask like, he doesn't ask either. He just makes it look like it. So now you've bought in already, and now you're in this situation already. So you feel like kind of obligated to do the next step. And he asks for like a little step and a little step until all of a sudden you're in the back of the van and he's beating the shit out of you.
Maybe this is a little bit of viewer like over awareness, but the back of the van doors were paneled with wood with like a drilled in metal hook. And like you could see that when they were open. At that point, it's like he modified the backs of these doors to be a solid wood panel you can't see through. That's when like you just turn and run. But I mean,
I would never have gotten in the back of the van.
no,
Yeah,
One
no.
thing I didn't
I definitely would have gotten it.
notice is
But it happened, right? Because he's
Well,
based on
Luckily, I'm not strong enough to pick up a couch. So
I can't
Yeah.
help you. I don't know what you
Yeah.
want me to do.
he's based on Ted Bundy, and that's how Ted Bundy did it. He pretended
Yeah.
to be injured and
Yeah,
moving stuff.
yeah.
yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
So it's the origins of true crime. It's Ted Bundy, and it's Ed Gein mostly,
Mhm.
and then a bunch of other kind of people sort of jumped in the mix there too. Yeah. I feel like that scene's funny to me because it has him use night vision only so it's not weird when he uses night vision at the end of the movie.
I also
think.
noticed that this time. I was like, wow, he
So
loves
he's
that
just-
night vision.
He's just watching a car under streetlights.
I
He
was
doesn't
thinking
need
the
Yeah, I
same
noticed
thing.
they show you the night vision version, and it's like very much she's like fucking
It's
blinded.
harder, it's
'cause of the
harder
light.
to see.
That was a fun scene too, because right before that they had the car coming up behind her with the headlights, and I was
Right.
thinking like, oh,
Yeah.
this is where because you know like he's gonna get her. So I thought that was a nice like misdirection where I was expecting like a push off the road.
I don't remember the scene that was before that, but it was such a hard transition to whatever. It was like something slightly creepy or something.
Yeah,
before that,
and then
all
you
of a
go to
sudden
her
you
and
get
she's
the-
singing American Girl.
Yeah, uh-huh.
Mm.
I let the night vision slide because they do
I don't
mention
have a problem with
me
it.
either.
He's a weird dude who likes his night vision.
He's a
goggles.
weird
Makes
dude.
him feel good.
I feel like I can suspend the disbelief on it because they do mention that he's picking these people very particularly because we don't know in the beginning, but the size is very important to him of you and your skin quality. So he's got to like really stalk you for a while. I feel like before he like makes his pick.
Did people have problems with the night vision? I
I
thought
don't
it
know.
was
No, I didn't either. I'm just saying,
It's just kind of
in like a literal,
little-
practical sense, he didn't need to be using
Yeah.
night vision at that
No.
point
no
to watch a well lit street
Oh,
Yeah.
gotcha.
and like
Okay, I
a
see what
well
you're
lit
saying.
parking area.
Yeah, no.
It's kind of just to establish that he's got
Yeah, that he has night vision. So you're not
He's
like, what the hell's going on when
creeping
he
around his
uses it
dark
later on.
basement.
It is good that they did that because we'd have a whole separate conversation of like, oh, now this asshole has night vision. Like at
That's
the end
true.
of the movie,
yeah,
it would
it
be
would
like,
have been. It would have been upsetting. Yeah,
what is
Yeah.
this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why?
It would have been a little too distracting at a moment where you're just so viscerally in it.
it's very true.
'Cause it
let-
makes sense as part of a creep kit.
Yeah. Let's talk about Buffalo Bill a little bit. So, it is obviously another iconic character. There's like 3 characters in this movie that become so iconic that all have quotes and cultural footprint even to this day. And Bill's kind of the, I don't know the way to put it, maybe like the stickiest portrayal in this one because they make it very clear that this isn't a thing that trans people do because they're trans. They explicitly say,
that we noticed that too.
yeah, the language they use is a little outdated because it's 1991, but they do specifically say that this isn't a thing that trans people do. Trans people aren't just inherently violent,
Yeah, while
which
we were
is important.
watching it this time because I knew I was going to talk about it, I was thinking about that too, and I was like, "Ooh, how is this movie aged?" But I felt like it aged fine because they mention that, and they actually go say something kind of weird, and Lecter says something that he's not trans.
They go.
do, yeah.
I
Which isn't really his call. Like we wouldn't say it these days, but I understand what he's saying. But it
He's
still
saying,
sounds
like, he
out of
feels like
context. It sounds harsh.
yes,
so like what he specifically said, because I definitely keyed in a lot onto this moment, was he said that he's not a transvestite. He thinks he is a transvestite, and I'm using the terminology of the time, but they are trying to become what they think they are, whereas this guy Buffalo Bill is just trying to change himself because he doesn't like who he is.
or I think he says.
yeah.
I think the word he uses, he's trying to be what he thinks he's supposed to be.
Yeah, he's trying to transcend. I think you guys are saying the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think that's well put. Yeah, he's trying to transcend,
Because
and
like
he's transform, and that's what the point of the moths are.
the key difference is a trans person just wants to feel comfortable in their own skin. He didn't
Yes.
want to be in his skin. He
Right.
wanted to be in somebody else.
He doesn't feel like a woman. He just doesn't want to be in his own body.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And
He
the
wants to
closest
transform.
he heard was, oh, a trans person is somebody that doesn't feel like they're comfortable in their own body. Oh, I'm the same way.
That's what Lecter says when he first is hinting at the fact that he already knows this guy. Fledgling killer's first effort at transformation after Clarice goes and sees the guy's head in the jar and comes back and it says, "Hey, what the hell was that?"
Robbie, at what point in the movie do you know? Because I feel like I can't tell anymore because I've seen it too many times. That you know Buffalo Bill's making like a woman's suit.
Oh,
Did you-
I knew it from the beginning.
Oh, you knew going in.
Because I mean,
The
that's-
size thing
that's
and
too
like
much.
looking at her back and stuff.
Oh,
Sure.
no. Well,
Just
so
from
I could have
what you
picked
knew
that
about
up
the
on
movie.
it, but from like, I mean, I'm pretty sure Joe Dirt, they make it pretty clear that he's making a
Oh,
skin suit.
Yeah.
Well, if you've already seen Joe Dirt, then why even watch this?
I mean,
really?
it's basically the
You've
same
got it.
thing.
Same thing.
Maybe
Yeah.
someone remembers though, because like, at what point do you have enough information to know that for sure?
It's before
'Cause that
Clarice finds the
Clarice
like,
doesn't know until like
Mhm.
way in the
right
end.
before that final act.
I'd say you should probably have a good idea when he's like obsessed with what size she is, like right off the bat. Like you already know he's been skinning people, and then it's like, what size? Oh, you're 14. Oh, like why else do you need size 14 skin?
Yeah, and you also, I think you might know at that point that they've said his MO is that he's not raping these women, and he's just keeping them for 3 days and then shooting them.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, and then skinning them.
Right.
So you knew he was skinning them, you knew it wasn't sexual, and you knew he wasn't torturing them with it.
Yeah.
So it was like he was specifically just harvesting skin.
Yep.
I think they made it a little bit more clear after they found that body in the river where they went to go do the autopsy, and they're like, oh, these are different like patterns or something like that was taken out of her back. Something like that.
Yeah.
I think that made it a little bit more obvious, but you could probably pick it
Yeah.
up before that.
And if you don't get it by then you see the sort of pinned dress template kind of thing later in the movie when she's in the house in Ohio. That's the same shape as the skin he took out of the back of that girl.
Right.
That's when
right.
she knows.
That's
and
when she figured it out. Yeah.
Which another use of like not showing more was better. Like I feel like never really seeing the suit until like a very bit at the end
They
was
give
like
you one glimpse of it for 2 seconds.
and
That's all you need.
That was the way to go. Like I feel like if they really had like keyed in onto like the whole like crafting of it, it just would have been it wouldn't have been.
That's something they would do today, I feel like.
oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
Absolutely.
in 5 years, it would like look shitty.
That's
like,
why I
the
like
effects
all
wouldn't
of
be
these
good.
older horror movies, because I like the ones where you have to like imagine what's going on. I don't want too much information. That's why I like the ones like The Shining and like this one.
Well, and I mean, you only have like what 2 to 3 hours to tell a story, and if you're gonna spend all of your time just digging in onto like how gory it is, like my brain does that perfectly well on its own. Like,
Right.
tell a good
Better
story. Right.
even.
Exactly.
That's I think what Stephen King usually says is that like your mind can make a way better story than I could ever show you.
right. Well,
That's why he's bad
but
at endings, right?
but the parts he can
Yeah.
write are better than my
'Cause my
brain
mind
could
is
come
bad
up.
at
So you
endings.
stick
Like-
with that.
Did your mind imagine a big turtle, perhaps?
Hey, I like that.
Don't shit. Ben's just coming into our home, shitting on all the things we like.
The turtle is fine. The turtle is not the problem with the
Oh,
internet.
yeah, that's fair.
We,
that's a different-
we
that's a
probably do
different
have to do an
podcast.
it episode. I'll volunteer for that one.
Okay. We can do that too.
Do you not like it?
I think it's fine. I think so part 1 of the newer movies I think is pretty good, and part 2 I think is not as good.
Gets a little weird. I liked it though. a
Part
lot.
2 is fun because it's
Right,
fun if
yeah.
you read the book. 'cause
It
it's like-
tries to be a comedy a lot more than I probably needed to.
It was not scary to me,
No, the second
which
one.
is fine because I don't like horror in general. I'm a
Greg-
bitch.
Greg and I liked the book so much that when we went in,
I was a
they
little
like
scared.
did all these funny things and they made all these references to the book. We were like, "Oh, okay, I see what they're doing. That's cute."
That's too recent though. Can't do that.
Oh well, the
we
original.
shouldn't be talking about
Bill
it.
Hader calls Pennywise a sloppy bitch at one point.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's amazing.
It's really funny.
Okay.
They put a lot of comedy in it.
They do.
I mean,
they
he's
have
a
Bill
clown.
Hader.
I think it's okay because they did the first one.
As
that
we
was
all know,
really scary,
quantity
and then we didn't do
quantity
really
over
scary.
quality when it
No,
comes
we
to
did the story,
comedy
so it was
is
fine.
That's fair.
is ideal.
Sorry,
Ugh.
different podcast.
Different pod.
Podcast.
So yeah, I forgot exactly what we were talking about Bill and then the skin stuff.
Oh yeah, but they didn't really show much of it.
We should probably spend a little bit of time talking about Jodie Foster, who obviously we've mentioned throughout, but okay, before
Before we go there, just
Yeah.
Buffalo Bill again. They do this pretty similar thing with him as they do with Lecter, though, because we don't know why Buffalo Bill is like this at all.
No.
We don't really know what's happening in the house. Who was the woman that Agent Starling's looking for? I forgot the name of her. The
Mrs.
actual
Littman.
seamstress, Mrs. Littman. She's in the
Oh, okay.
basement, I think, in the tub.
Yeah.
That's what I assume.
seems to be.
There's like
case.
a moldy body in a tub in the basement.
Oh, I
Yeah.
think I missed that.
It's like a
It
very
shows it's
skeleton.
one
It's like
second
half
before
a-
the night
It's
vision
again
comes
just
on.
enough to get
Oh.
it. So
I
yeah.
think that's her. I assume he's one of her employees. Maybe that's where he learned how to sew or
Yeah, Greg and I
something.
were talking
I
about
was
this. We
thinking
don't
it
know
was
what the
his mom.
relationship is.
I was thinking it could be his mom too, but because like
Yeah, or
he
I
has
think
to have been in
it's
the
just
area
like-
Or
because
maybe
he
he was
coveted
adopted.
in that area, but they don't tell you any of that.
Nope.
But
You
I
know
feel
that
like
he
I
can
have,
sew, and she was a seamstress.
and you know that he was in that area a lot because Lecter said he coveted the first victim,
Well,
by
yeah.
seeing her a lot.
Well, the first victim was also a seamstress.
Yeah,
so
they
that's
could have just
why-
worked in they could have just both worked in like a really industrial kind of sewing facility. We
but
have
he
those
was in
here
that
the
area,
city.
So
Yeah.
like
Very intimate.
I thought that she never actually worked with the Mrs. person. I thought he was requesting things from her, and then like he like maybe wanted clothes, and then it escalated from there. That's where I went with that.
Yeah, but once again, it's because they didn't provide us with much information, but just enough. And you think of all these things, then like you just find one you're happy with, and you just go. And I don't know.
When we knew we were going to talk about this, and then that's when we were questioning, like, oh wait, but how does he even know her? Like, I've watched this movie so many times, I just haven't even cared.
I'd put money on her being his like foster parent, because like she was in the foster system. You know what I like? They kind of like to do that, like similarity or symmetry kind of thing. I don't know.
But once again, I just found it really interesting.
I don't know why. I thought about that too, but I was like, Mrs. Lippman couldn't hurt anybody, and I'm like, I don't know.
Especially
she sounds like a sweet old lady.
When we were talking
she likes
about
to sew.
She's in her bathtub in the basement. Poor thing.
Buffalo Bill wants like this transformation and stuff. I almost wanted to say something like, oh yeah, because his parents abused him or something like that. I was like, wait, no, they don't tell us that. Like maybe they did though. I was like,
that he was made a monster.
Yeah, exactly. They do. He mentioned
but they
that.
don't talk about like.
So like I have all these things that I think are like part of the movie because they like give you just enough where you can like you fill in these blanks and you don't even think twice about it.
Yep.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. So Jodie Foster's performance in this movie is awesome. Obviously, it's really hard to do movies with this many close-ups for actors, I have to assume. And she is so good at just expressing some kind of like emotion just by like changing like how her eyes like flicker or just like just a brief look or something. She's really good.
Especially I feel
good
like
win.
A lot of this movie is just two people talking.
Yeah.
And it just gets slowly closer to their face every time.
And it's just like when it's your turn to talk, the camera's just looking straight at you. And I don't know why, but I love it every time. So it's just her looking right at you, like at the camera.
It's kind of funny. I know we were talking about that, and I don't mind it the whole movie. I feel like it's great until she talks to her friend that's the FBI agent. Like, I don't know what her name is, but for some reason when I looked at her, I'm like, no. Like, I don't think you're as good as an actress as like everybody else that's in here.
Did you feel like the friend was a little out of place? I just all of a sudden I was like, where did this person come from? Why are they in the movie now?
She's like the only person she's been hanging out with. They were running together earlier and stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, but
they're both studying. They're in the same class.
They're in the same class, but she's just kind of there.
I didn't even notice that she was in the class, so I was 100% like, who is this person?
They're
like,
in class together.
Yeah. Okay.
I would imagine. I think they're shown to be like the only two women in that class, so I'd imagine that they would prefer to study together.
I feel like I don't know when we want to talk about, but there's a lot of scenes with just dudes like they very intentionally make Starling look out of place as much as they possibly can.
She's so small, and they pick like all these huge dudes.
How tall is Jodie Foster actually?
I think she's like 4'11".
Oh my god!
Okay, so she is legit
short
small.
person.
Really short. Because I was like, how much of this is her height, and how much is them like? Okay, we need some random people extras. They need to be like 6'5". The first like scene after she comes in all sweaty, she gets into an elevator and it's packed.
She's
all
5'3".
with men.
Yeah.
Oh, so she's not that 5'3" is pretty short, but it's not like
that's not that short.
It's not that short. So she's in this elevator, and I swear to God, she's totally surrounded with dudes who are like twice her height.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think let's put it like a pin on the close-up thing, because what the close-ups work for me is it situates you almost directly in her point of view, because it's the dudes who are always staring directly down the barrel of the camera, even if Lecter obviously staring directly down the camera when he's talking to her, but also every other man that she meets looking directly down the camera. So it puts you in her discomfort, in her experience of the male gaze, and it subverts male gaze by making the audience, you, the subject of it, who for a lot of people maybe haven't experienced that before, and it situates you so much in her point of view. And again, I mentioned a little bit before, but just the empathy for his characters that Demme has, it actually puts you directly in her mindset, rather, more than basically any other trick or technique I can think of in a movie. Just directly, this is what she is seeing at this moment. And the dude is like, especially a lot of times with Lecter, he's like looking down like that. So it always feels like these dudes are filling up the frame and staring down at her.
Mm-hmm.
And no, it's just awesome.
It is
And that obviously goes into the fact that it is doing all of these things really smartly to never let you forget that every scene in this movie is affected by the fact that she's a woman without hitting you over the head with that.
Man, it's so good.
It is.
And it's just like no other movie can pull that off that I can think of. That
no,
it is
I feel like a lot of
always
movies
about.
fuck it up really badly,
Yeah.
honestly.
The part where I noticed it more than anywhere else was when after like the funeral scene and he was like, oh, can we not talk in front of a woman, where she actually broke it down as to like what he did and like why it discredited her as a person.
Yeah.
You've seen that a lot in movies where like somebody will react poorly to it, but nobody just calmly explains like this is exactly what you did and this is why it was a problem, which I think you need to see more.
Especially too because he explains why it's okay first,
He's like,
and she
"No, that's right."
counterpoints like, no.
What you say
Yeah.
matters. And
Yeah.
that's just such a perfect way to put it, simply.
I don't think I've ever seen a comeback like that,
Yeah.
of just like this is an honest conversation, which
Yeah.
it was just refreshing.
Yeah.
Especially because the whole rest of the movie, you can tell like there's just so many like very large aggressive men, right? And so everything that she has to do, if she's ever going to like overcome that, she has to be like passive and kind of be what they expect her to be and kind of like slither under the radar to get them to do what she wants to do. So like in that scene, right, they're all these cops standing around and she's just like, thank you guys all so much. You've done so much for her. Let us take care of her now. Like rather than like, guys, get the hell out of here. Like there's too many of you.
Yeah.
So she has to
She has to compliment them like 3 times before making the request that she wants to say,
Yes.
like, obviously get the fuck out. Why are you still here?
And even still after that, they like stand and stare at her for like an uncomfortable amount of time.
Yes.
And once again, she's not in the frame. They stop and they stare at you for like an uncomfortable amount of time before they're like,
Yeah.
okay, I guess we should leave.
It makes you uncomfortable.
Well,
And
It
again,
is. It
not
isn't
hitting you
uncomfortable.
over the
They're
head.
like staring at me, and I'm like,
And then like the sheriff in charge gave that like patronizing look, like, oh, thanks, sweetie. Before he like, it was very well done. Very, very well done.
Yeah, and like you were saying, so many other movies, that character, they get back to the car and she's yelling, oh, I can't believe you embarrassed me like that. And it's none of that. He brings it up and she has like the perfect thing to say in response. What you say matters. Those guys look to you for how they should be treating me.
Very
That's it.
important message.
yep.
Yep. So yeah,
But you don't
he
see
was a bad
messages
ally.
like that anymore.
Yeah.
I don't know. Kids these days.
God, Jodie Foster's awesome in this movie. She's just so good.
She's so good.
Is that her natural accent, or did she just like learn that?
No, so she puts on a little bit of a West Virginia. So it's weird, right? Because it's explicitly stated that the character is trying not to do an accent,
Oh,
and sometimes it comes through more than other times.
okay.
And it's generally considered a pretty bad accent that she does in the movie.
Okay, yeah, yes, thank you. But
But yeah, I don't know. She's awesome in it anyway.
She's great.
absolutely.
I really like her in the very end scene. I don't know if we want to wait and just hit all that at once,
Hit it.
though.
Hit it.
Okay. Yeah, I
We've
feel
been
like
jumping
Wait,
around.
before we jump into that,
Yeah.
does
Don't
anybody
hit
know
it.
how tall Anthony Hopkins is?
5'9". That came up when I Googled Jodie Foster height.
Oh,
that makes sense. Everyone wants to know. No, if she's 5'3", he's 7'10".
That's what it feels like, but there's only a half-foot difference, apparently.
Yeah, I don't know. I always thought he was kind of short, but like I don't know, just the way that they film him. Sometimes he looks real tall, sometimes he doesn't. I
They're
don't know.
pulling the same shit they do in Elf, where
It is. It's the same thing with her though. Sometimes they
It's
make
the
her
same
just look
height
so
difference, I
tiny.
swear.
My pull was going to be like Lord of the Rings, but Elf too. Yeah.
Oh, man.
As we're recording this, we're like, what, 4 weeks from the 20th anniversary of the first of Fellowship coming
yeah,
out?
well, we're 5 weeks from like Christmas, so that's why I went Elf. Okay.
Yeah.
Do we know anyone that hasn't seen Lord of the Rings?
We'll find someone.
I haven't seen most of it.
I didn't think you did.
No, I've
How-
seen the
how
third
so
one.
Oh, okay. That's a weird one to come in on.
I've seen
It's-
most of the first one because it like
He's seen way
Oh, you've
more of the
seen
Two
Walken?
Towers than anybody else has
Yeah.
ever seen. though.
I've seen the Battle of Helm's Deep too many times. Like, there's some parts that, like you just can't avoid them. Like they're gonna be on TV or you go to someone's house and it's on, kind of thing.
Yep.
But I couldn't tell you the plot of the first one. Like, besides a very brief summary
There's a ring involved.
to get the ring to Mordor. I know
yeah,
that.
I kind of feel that way about the
And my
first one,
axe.
Well, it's good.
too. Anyway,
And that'll be another thing if we end up doing one. I might just cut that one out in case, so we get we save all the takes for that.
Yeah, that's fine with me.
So, and I'm curious how this hit Robbie, because not seeing it before, this is maybe my favorite rug pull in any movie ever, where they're setting up.
So good.
She finds the dress that confirms, yes, the killer knows this person. He must be from the area or whatever. You know she's in Ohio. And again, another thing where they put the dominoes in place and you don't even realize it. The fact that the full force of the FBI, everyone that can help her, they explicitly tell you is 400 miles away. And they are about to touch down in a suburb outside of Chicago where they believe they've tracked the killer to.
They know.
They do have his name right.
Yeah.
They have his name right. They found a customs report where this guy was bringing over the specific kind of moths, the death's head moths, into the country, and it's this guy, and they know where he is, and they're there, and it sets up as the it's Catherine, right? Is the girl who's in the well?
Yes.
As she's managed to finagle it, so Precious, the dog, the tiny poodle, falls down the well. So all of this stuff is just like this noisy crap starts happening, and Bill is really angry now and yelling a bunch. And you see the FBI setting up outside the house.
Flower van.
And it's, and there's a flower van gambit, the classic gambit of the flower van. And they're cutting back and forth between the hecticness inside and outside. The guy rings the bell. You hear the bell ring inside.
He's got that like crazy alarm system that just makes it way louder in his house so that it can ring in his creepy basement.
And it keeps cutting back and forth. He's getting to the door.
They keep ringing the bell.
Yeah, Crawford says, "Okay, go." And they're about to breach the house. You see them start jumping through the windows and breaking the door and stuff. And then he opens the door and it's Jodie Foster.
Smiling.
So how'd that work for you?
I mean, maybe it's just like my years of seeing movies, but as soon as he was like, we're 400 miles away, and then like she was doing her own searching thing, I was like, oh, okay, this is the classic, like they're at the wrong location and she's going to be the only one at the right location. The setup though was so fantastic. I'm glad you mentioned the doorbell part, because that was where it had me going like, oh, well, maybe they'll do it a different way. Like maybe she is at the same, there was still a part of me that was like not 100% sold that that's what it was going to be until it revealed. But, they did it so well.
So cool. Just so good.
I also am a little disappointed we didn't get to see how the Precious Gambit worked, because I was very interested to see like how that would have resolved without interaction.
Play out well for her, I don't think.
No, well, he went to go get the gun.
Well, so he did, but I feel like she just goes back up against the wall and is like, "You're gonna have to try to shoot through."
Right?
Is she gonna gamble on that though?
Well, that was her best bet at that point.
She doesn't
I'm
really
gonna
have a
shoot you if you don't
choice.
give me the dog back.
Oh, I think I'd probably. That's all.
Yeah, at that point, it's probably like her best play.
It's all or nothing.
I
It's,
think
I
she-
will literally
yeah.
kill this dog unless I get out of this situation. And that's what
I think she would have been fighting about it. But I think it would have ended messy. Is what would have happened.
Like nobody would have won.
Yeah.
Well,
the dog's dead. She's dead.
Yeah.
He can't get his skin suit now.
I think that's fair. But yeah, so this sequence is awesome, and it's something that the movie plays with so much and in so many different ways. Is at different times the audience knows a lot more than certain characters in a scene. At other times you're behind characters, usually Lecter. Sometimes you're with him ahead of other characters, and it's constantly playing with what you know versus what the characters know. In this sequence especially good. Just, tension building 101. You know something terrible is happening. The character doesn't know yet. She's in that house for a long time.
Yes.
That scene just
And you know he's got the gun on the stove in the next room.
Mm-hmm.
Yep,
he's
had
obviously
her,
just like laughing to himself like, yeah, business cards.
they had her like really, not just like you could tell when she figured it out, but you could also tell like when she decided to pull her gun was like the absolute last minute. You could have waited before. I'd be like, why isn't this idiot pulling her? It was such a perfect timing of like, no, that was when she had to do it.
Yeah.
I did like when she walks into the room with him when he's looking for the business card, when she's still like totally, does not know at all that it's him. The camera moves and there's the picture of the butterfly on the wall.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the camera in this movie is so fucking good. Where
They
you're
won
looking at
cinematography,
her
right?
And it just was not even nominated for cinematography.
No.
And it just moves a little bit, edges up over her shoulder, and you see the butterfly, and then it just puts her back in the center of the frame.
Mm-hmm.
And you're just like,
As
I'm
if-
just gonna
as
argue
if
that it
you
should have
d-
gotten more Oscars.
As if we don't
yeah, it
already
only
know
got
that this is
nominated for
Buffalo
like
Bill.
two
They just,
besides the one
they're
we got.
confirming it for us. Like, in case you guys were asleep for the rest of the movie, look at this butterfly. This is definitely Buffalo Bill.
I do love that they don't address that. Like, she had been told that they found the guy. She was told that they're definitely about to go get the guy. She didn't like argue. She just was like, "Yep, that's great." And then without any like further explanation, just continues to do her investigation, which just makes
they
it.
explained it.
Oh, did they?
Mm-hmm.
He says, I want you to continue digging up what you can. Right now, we're about to get him on kidnapping. We need him on murder.
Okay,
Yeah.
I thought he said we want to get him on kidnapping, not murder.
It took me. I didn't catch
Yeah.
it the first time I watched
So
it.
I
either,
thought he was
yeah.
basically saying we need to go quick.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I
like-
thought she was basically like, all right, these idiots got it.
No,
I'm
I
just
thought
gonna-
the same thing. Yeah.
No,
but
it's like
Yeah,
he's like, we're gonna make it in time because they know when they kill her.
Like, she explicitly says, "Oh, I'll be there in a few hours," and he says, "No, stay there because we're gonna find him with the girl. It's just kidnapping. You have the information to make this a murder charge."
Yeah.
And then right when like they do the breakthrough and she's not there, and I forgot the agent's name, but he just goes Clarice, and that's when that was perfect.
Mhm.
That was
Yes.
also perfect.
Mm-hmm.
I really like too at this part because, as we've said before, Agent Starling doesn't really make a lot of mistakes in the movie. You know, they do a lot to show us that, like, you know, she's a great FBI agent. She knows what she's doing. The only time she really doesn't is there's one time in a training exercise they show her fuck up, and it's right after she had met Lecter, I think.
Oh yeah, yep. Right
Yeah.
before they say that guy was killed.
Yeah, and she's like a little off her game, you know, because of that.
He's in her head.
Yeah, he's in her head. And then, not that she messes up, but this whole scene, once she realizes this is Buffalo Bill, she like almost stumbles getting her gun out. Like they show that she's like terrified right now because she knows she's fucked. She's alone.
Yep.
This guy is not only just a murderer, but like he's skinning women alive to like take their skin. Like that's a whole new level. And she knows no one is coming to help her.
Do you remember
Right.
what you said
They're
about
400
it
miles away.
in that scene?
Oh yeah, he runs out. He like she can't get him. She hears him go downstairs. I'm like, call somebody. And
And I was
she's
like,
how?
it's 1991, Greg.
She already asked
And
for his
she's in, like,
phone.
a
He hadn't given it to
basement.
her.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I guess she could have just
Well,
like
before she went to
left
the
and gone
basement, I was
back
like-
outside, but I think the math in her head, I'm assuming, because my thought is she knows it's him before he runs away.
Yes.
Yes.
She could leave. Once he runs away, she could leave. But the math is how long it takes her to get to a phone versus he's going to go downstairs and kill this girl right now.
Yeah.
That was I had like both of those thoughts where like when she stumbled with the gun, I wanted to be annoyed because she's a police officer, blah 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 blah. I hate that like she could have taken him out,
Yeah.
but she's a trainee.
She's not. She's not an FBI
And-
agent.
And she
It
failed
also-
that training.
And also just like the terrifying nature behind
This is her
everything
first
that was
encounter
go-
ever.
There was so much that made it like a yep, that's exactly how it would go.
This is the first time she's probably ever drawn her gun outside of a training
I
exercise.
still
Yeah.
think, and I'm pretty sure the training manuals would back me up. I think she made the moral, like, you know, what's the what should I do most moral choice. I think what training would have said is she should have went outside, grabbed a neighbor's phone, called the police, and then immediately went back inside. Obviously, again, still training, but I think that was.
We don't know if he had neighbors. You know what I mean? We don't know
I
how
think we saw,
rural
like,
he
a
is.
neighborhood.
He was next to train track. Yeah, it was like a neighborhood, I think.
Oh, okay. I don't
Because I would
remember.
have just
I think it was a
immediately like
neighborhood.
ran outside, banged on a door, called 911, get here.
Yeah,
now.
but that's the lambs thing, right? She's got to save that one.
Oh
right?
yeah.
Yeah, she's
if
gotta
I
save
could
that
just say-
one.
Okay, all
Yeah,
right.
if I can
yeah.
just save this.
So
one.
that sequence is awesome. And speaking of the training, the whole time it's happening, I'm like, is she checking her corners? Is she checking her corners?
I was
love,
thinking that too.
As she's
Yeah.
like doing that too, even when she's going down the stairs, she's like stumbling and like she's opening doors and she's opening them too hard and they're like kicking her back and stuff. You can tell she's like
So
Now,
amped up.
She's
so
amped,
much adrenaline.
and she does such a good job, like
They
with
do
the
that,
acting for this.
that
Yes.
camera angle where they just have her feet and you're expecting them to like grab her ankle the whole time.
Yeah, absolutely.
That was such
Had
a
the same
good
thought.
like, and like no.
Yeah, and I love she comes downstairs and she goes like, "Oh, Catherine, whatever, is that you?" And he goes, "Yeah, get me out of here." And she's like,
I love
"FBI,
this.
you're safe." She goes, "No, I'm not.
I'm
You
in
gotta
a
get."
hole.
Get me the fuck out of here.
And it's almost like she's trying to like convince herself like everything's going to be fine. I think she says, and you can tell she doesn't believe it in that moment, and Catherine super doesn't believe it in that moment.
I thought too was that she's trying to convince Bill because she says like the
She
other
does at the
agents
end.
are.
Yeah, she's definitely
That's,
like
like, the
saying
last
it for
That
his
is the last thing
benefit.
she
too.
says. So maybe at
She
first
builds up to this.
Yeah.
She screams that. Yeah.
Yeah, she screams that, and I
That's
really
as
like.
she's like looking over at the door. She's like, "Other agents are outside."
Or they'll be here soon. She
Yeah.
says. And what does Catherine call her? She's a stupid bitch or something.
You fucking bitch.
You fucking bitch.
Yeah, don't leave me here, you fucking bitch. I think
Yeah,
is what
you
she said.
fucking
Yeah.
bitch.
Get me out of here. And then he's like, quiet.
Yeah.
Yeah, just shut up, Catherine.
I just love it too because I feel like it's just so real. Like this is how this would happen.
Shut that damn dog up.
It doesn't matter that it's way better for Catherine if she's quiet right now. There's no way she's gonna be quiet right now.
No, it was basically like it was almost like they were doing like a real life footage of like we found a horror movie like a serial killer because the reactions were and like even
Yeah.
as she's yelling, I'm getting a little annoyed. Like it's like you know it's good for her. You know she's obviously not gonna stop. And then Clarice, shut up. It's like, yep, exactly. That's where I'm at.
And like
That's absolutely where I'm at.
the whole time, like, what the fuck do you think? Like, I'll just build you a staircase real quick. Don't worry. Like,
Let me turn my back and figure out a way to like. Oh, how about I jump down in the hole with you? Like,
I'll boost you. What the fuck?
No, but that's how it would have been.
yeah.
Yes, it's definitely.
Absolutely.
That's why I love it.
Yeah.
So this sequence is amazing and obviously one of the most iconically, maybe even infamously tense sequences in film ever. Even though, I mean, like, you know, if you think about it in a vacuum, Jodie Foster's not going to die at the end of this movie, probably. But you've seen a lot of messed up stuff. And this whole sequence, it just keeps building in such an interesting way, even though Bill's pretty much not on screen for any of it. Just as she goes deeper and she's seeing more and more depraved stuff.
It does just get worse. It starts like with her talking to him, and you're like, "Oh, that's what the fuck," you know what I mean? And then he's in the basement. And you're like, "Oh no, he this basement they've guided us around it a couple times now. And it's a fucking maze.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's got like it's way too big, and you're like, "Oh my god, she's fucked if he's in the basement."
There's
Yeah.
a well in it for some fucking
And then
reason.
the lights turn off.
Yeah.
Right? I'm assuming
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
for again.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
God,
yeah.
she's never getting
Jeez,
out of
you
here.
see the skin suit in the dressing room for a little bit, and you're like, both of those is weird. And then she gets to that bathroom. You get like half a second of that decaying body in the extremely gross brown tub. And you're like, that's the worst thing I've. And then the lights go out, and you're like, oh no.
Now I'm alone in here with this dead
Oh,
body.
no.
It's
yeah.
gonna get worse.
Yep.
There's not like a person on the planet that could actually like go through all that and not turn around and run. Like props to her because
She
at a
couldn't.
certain point,
She was like lost at that point because next is he's watching through the night vision and she's just stumbling. She can't find her way out, and she's like trying to like
She's breathing so heavy.
yeah, she's breathing super. She does such a
Yeah.
once again. Jodie Foster is great. This whole thing, she's shaking, she's breathing super heavy. At this point, I was like looking over at Ray and I was like, and her pulse never went above 285.
that's fantastic.
That sequence is so cool once the night vision kicks in and you see her. And I'm assuming they filmed that in daylight. I mean, maybe they did it in night vision, but I feel like that would have been really dangerous for the actor. But you see that, and it's his hand, and he's just like right behind her at a couple times, and his hand's reaching out.
Yep.
And then you see the gun go up, and then he cocks it, and that's just enough. She turns and I think like drops to change the angle or whatever, and shoots him a bunch of times. And just the muzzle flashes like illuminating him in the dark, and wow.
Yep. And then the window breaks and they get like some light in,
Yeah.
and you see that she's unloaded 6 rounds in 0.6 seconds. She like fumbles the revolver and she's like trying to get her next 6 in there, and it takes way
And
too
she's
long.
just shaking the whole
She's
time.
like
Yeah.
shaking the
Yeah.
whole
Yeah,
time.
yeah.
Bill's fucking wicked dead on the ground, but she is like, I'm getting these in there.
Well, and right before Leica's out too, you just hear the shots. They don't tell you like
Who fired?
who fired at first, which I thought was really cool. I
You see the
like
flashes.
I like that he fumbled for the hammer, because at first it was like, oh well, luckily he fumbled for the hammer, she'd be dead. But you could even, like you were saying with the hand, like he wasn't even 100% sure what moves he wanted to make, and like it's shocking that he didn't try to fire it dry without cocking the hammer. So like even him having that foresight, like that was him saving the. You know what I mean? Like you don't have to suspend the disbelief. Like that was a good scene of, I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. And I just had the thought, befitting how the movie kind of operates, we haven't talked about Lecter for a while at this point.
Yeah.
And that's fine, because that's pretty much, he's out of the movie from the beginning of the third act when he escapes until just after this. Just to speed run it, because we're right around an hour and a half already.
It's a good movie.
It's a really good movie. I don't think we're going to hit longest episode ever once I edit this, but it will be close. The rest of the FBI makes it there. Good for nothing, basically. They take the senator's daughter back so she can. They get the credit. But she gets to graduate and become a full special agent. The Crawford character's there and kind of claps for her, and then is at the party afterwards.
Creepily grabs her hand.
Yeah, and they do a close-up on the hand, which, again, that situates you in how she processes that is Hannibal Lecter's in her head now, so she's reading so much into this hand grab. Maybe it's just like a cordial thing. Maybe it's not. That's going to be
much into it too.
Yeah, that's going to be in her head forever now. And then also, obviously, a direct mirror of when she grabbed the files from Lecter the last time she saw him, and he just had like a one finger caress of her hand.
Yes,
good stuff. And then she gets a phone call.
Love it.
Yeah, that's
Love
pretty
it.
much it. So good.
The whole scene at him, I'm having a friend for dinner.
And again, like with the backstory, it's like I'm having an old friend for dinner, and he's looking at an old person. It's like, what did this person do to him?
Oh, you didn't notice who it was?
It's
No.
Chilton.
Dr. Chilton, the doctor who like harassed him at the psych hospital.
He steps off the plane as he's looking at
the
the plane.
local he's talking to. He's like, the security's all set. I think he's fleeing
knows that
because
Lecter's
he
gonna
knows
find
Lecter's
him.
hunting him. He
I
knows.
saw, like, when he said I'm having an old friend for dinner, I saw like an old lady stepping off the plane, and I thought it was the old lady. I didn't. So he stepped out after her.
Yep, and it's Dr. Chilton, and as Lecter's talking, and you see him, Dr. Chilton walking, he's saying something to some like local about like, oh, the security's all set, like it's high security, right? So it's like implying he's fled the United States.
Yeah. But yeah, Lecter tells Clarice that he's not going to come after her, which she already knew, because as she tells her friend, she thinks that he would think it'd be rude.
Yeah.
And the most rude person in this movie was Chilton, obviously. So he's going to go eat Chilton now.
Do they follow up with that in Hannibal, or is that just like a?
I don't know.
You didn't watch it back to back last night?
Nope.
Oh man. I'm not sure, but I think it answers it though, because he says, I'm going to have an old friend for dinner. He starts walking away in that kind of like sashaying slowly thing with his Panama hat and his wig on.
Yeah, his wig.
And you see it, and it's just over the end credits for a few minutes. You can see him slowly following Chilton up the street, and you can track both of them for a few minutes. Did you guys watch till the end of the end credits?
No.
We did actually, I think, because I thought it was funny that they credit you in order of appearance. So it's Jodie Foster followed by like FBI agent who says they're looking for you and comes and gets her on the course. I forget what he's credited as.
Yep.
And then the last guy is FBI agent with flowers. And it's the guy who's like at the door ringing the doorbell and like looking back at them.
Amazing.
One thing I noticed, and that's why I said I think they answer the question in this, that I had not ever noticed before, and I'm glad I did. I like watching credits to the end, and plus I'm still typing out notes, and it's nice to stay in the headspace. The music's really cool over the end credits, and also just tracking how long you can still see Lecter sashaying slowly and villainously after Chilton. Earlier in the movie, after you find out that the Jodie Foster / Crawford offer to allow him to go to a still max security but better view cell in a state or in a federally run institution where 1 week a year he gets to go to a beach and under SWAT supervision swim in the ocean and walk along the beach. Turns out that's fake. Chilton goes to him and taunts him about it and says, "Did you really think you'd ever get to walk on the beach with the birdies ever again?" The movie ends with him walking along a beach, stalking Chilton, about to kill him. The music ends slightly before the movie cuts out, and the last thing you hear is birds.
Huh. That's cool.
And then the movie ends.
That's really cool.
It's something I hadn't noticed before, but literally the score ends, but there's still a couple seconds of the credits, and it's just birds chirping.
Huh. That is pretty cool.
Yep. Hadn't ever noticed that before. Very cool.
I didn't notice that either.
So he walks along the beach with the birdies
Mm-hmm.
I was like
That's cool.
so
on
excited.
his way to kill Chilton.
I was so excited for the phone call and to watch him like walk down after Chilton that I missed him asking her about the lambs. Like I was so
He was
zoned
like,
in.
did he ask it?
I was like, oh fuck, I missed it.
And just because I guess we kind of skipped over it, but that scene where he's in
We
some
didn't talk about the lambs at all.
right before
They were quiet.
right before he escapes from that 5th floor ballroom in downtown Memphis. Is that where they are at that point?
Yep.
The last time that Lecter and Clarice talk in person is when they probably both secure their Academy Awards.
Oh, yeah.
In that sort of back and forth monologuing where she tells him what the name of the movie is and about how she was on the ranch and she heard the lambs screaming and tried to save just one. And he says, "Oh, so you think if you can save this girl that the lambs will stop, screaming and you can sleep through the night?" She says, "I don't know." And he says, "Thank you," in like a really creepy way. And then she's like, "So tell me who he is." And he goes like, "Nah."
Everything you need is in here. I legit wrote it in here. You're
Yeah.
not gonna find this out for several scenes. You should.
You
check,
didn't
though.
look.
You
check
should
now-
read my notes for sure.
You'll also know that I have a pen on me if you check right now.
There's always money in the banana stand.
Right, yeah. Yeah, if you see I've written in here, then you necessarily will think, you had a writing implement.
Oh, because
He's been drawing.
He's
It's charcoal.
Oh, and
It's all charcoal drawings, and
He
they
can
show the
find a way.
charcoal too.
Yeah.
He could find a way, I think.
Honestly, sometimes I
sharpen
do.
it
The
in.
way his character is so good, a lot of times I think like, oh, he could escape whenever he wanted. He just didn't care to at the time, and
Yep.
it's like
You
it's
saw
a
a
big game
perfect
to him.
opportunity
Yep. He's like, oh, no reason not to escape now.
where the entire bulk of the force of the FBI is in a different part of the world, focusing on one thing.
Yeah, that's kind of why, I don't think, from the very beginning when he first saw Clarice, he was like, she's my ticket out of here. I think it was just kind of like he played the hand he was given. He was like, oh, this is amusing
That's
for
why
now.
I think
Wait for an opportunity.
Yeah, he had a plan ready to go, and he tested Clarice, and he was having a good time with that, but then also saw that he could finagle it into his plan.
I was gonna say, so you mentioned the ballroom thing.
Yeah.
I wonder, if that's the first time they've done that setup like that, because you've seen that before, that cage in the middle of the room, and they have to surround, that kind of security. And is that the first time they've done that? Is what I was wondering.
I do wonder. Yeah, I'm not sure off the top of my head. It's pretty affecting.
Iconic, I guess.
Yeah.
I've just seen it a lot since.
I think we've hit most of the things I do want to hit. So Demme in all of his movies just really focuses on the way that, and this isn't my thought. This is there's this great critic, Emily Vanderwerf, who was the guest on a better podcast episode about Silence of the Lambs. She was a guest on Blank Check's episode about it. And someone on that episode, I tried not to copy them this whole time. Now that we're an hour and a half in, I guess I can admit I've listened to someone else's episode about it. Talks about Demme as someone whose main focus is the kind of transactional nature of interpersonal communication and relationships. So you get that very explicitly with the quid pro quo explicitly called out between Jodie Foster and Anthony Hopkins in this. That's in a lot of his movies too. But the one thing that, if Ridley Scott had made this movie, I don't think it's as good. I think it's still interesting. I don't think it's as good, though. He just has so much empathy that Bill gets to be a character in this. He gets to have his own scenes where he's not just murdering people. You can see, what not necessarily engendering sympathy for him, but you get to see sort of a totality of a character there that I don't think exists in another director's hands. I don't know if that's more screenplay, but that's something that's present in a lot of Demme stuff, so I'll give him the credit here. And also, I didn't write down who wrote the screenplay. I'm sorry. They won an Oscar. They don't need my plaudits. But yeah, I think that one of the main things that gets sanded down that gives this movie sometimes a bad reputation with the LGBTQ community is that the pop cultural imprint of it doesn't have that empathy for the Bill character. It doesn't have the nuance of other characters explicitly understanding that this isn't a thing that trans people do. This is a thing that Bill's doing. And that all doesn't exist in the parody versions of this. I'm sure it doesn't in the Joe Dirt version of this.
No, they don't. They leave that line out.
No, and I mean, especially for the times, I think people should really appreciate the fact that they went out of their way to mention that this is not a trans thing. Like, they didn't have to or need to do that at the time.
Yeah. Literally 30 years ago.
Yeah.
This movie could have aged a lot worse.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
It's incredible. It feels so fresh. Movies don't look like this. They don't feel like this. No. And it's still just a staggering achievement.
Speaking of that, though, I did get an asexual vibe from Hannibal Lecter. I don't know if, like, I wouldn't picture him being like he was. I don't think he's gay. I don't think sex is like a thing for him. But I don't know. That's my own personal fan theory.
Yeah, his pulse doesn't get above 85. So
no one makes his heart race.
There you go.
Yeah,
that's how that works.
Any final thoughts on Silence of the Lambs? I'm supposed to ask, are you happy that you have finally seen it?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's something that, at the very least, even if you didn't love it, you can say, there's a big thing that I've now checked off my list.
Oh, no, I loved it. I'm really enjoying the podcast. It's giving me an excuse to try myself. I think this is like the second gorier movie I've done.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
So,
and you watch Squid Game separately too, right?
Yeah. It's just been a very growth-filled podcast for me.
What was the other one? Dead Poet Society?
Yeah,
it's got dead right in the title.
It was rough.
Pretty spooky.
What was the other one? Oh, I had been worried about Alien because I knew about the chest bursters, but I mean,
forgot it was 79.
I said that. This is 79's graphics I can handle.
Yeah, it's really good. And you guys always happy to revisit. Maybe happy is the wrong word, but satisfied.
No, I am happy. Like I said, though, it's not like just any mood kind of movie. You know what I mean? Because it is like, I don't know if I'd call it horror. I don't know what I think they
suspense thriller.
Yeah, those aren't always like my jam. You know what I mean? But
I'd
love this movie.
Horror just because it had the skin parts. You know, that is what put it over from suspense to horror for me.
Yeah, some people do label it horror. I read that they said that there's only 6 horror movies that have ever been nominated for Best Picture.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm. This is the only one.
Yep. In terms of Oscar awards, it's always said this is the horror movie that broke the mold, even though when you're watching it, you're like, 80% of it it's
two people talking.
Fucking, is CSI, right? Like it's Law and Order. And it birthed so much of that thing because so much of it until that third act where you're on the edge of your seat is just everyday procedural shit. It's banal, and you find the kind of creepiness on the edge of that through a woman just trying to exist in a normal environment, right? So
it's just a great movie. Honestly, I love this movie so much. I feel like everything about it really is perfect. I couldn't even guess how long this movie is.
No.
Oh, it's 2 hours, 5 minutes.
There's never a part in it.
I don't know. I didn't check while I was watching.
I can't even guess.
There's never a part in it that doesn't feel like the minute is used up. You know, like
everything is
nothing wasted. It's all interesting.
Is perfect.
Yeah.
And it just goes right by. You start it and then all of a sudden it's over. Every minute's great. And like I said, I think it's the best villain I've ever seen in a movie. And honestly, he's not even the villain of the movie, I'd say.
Yeah. I've seen this movie so many times, and I realized, like, almost toward the end, it was when Clarice and Dr. Lecter were having that exchange where you're going back and forth. I was literally, like, sitting on the edge of my seat. I was like, oh. And I've seen this movie, like, I don't know, 25 times probably, just so many times. And it's just, every time I'm still fascinated by it.
So Lecter is number 1 villain on AFI's 100 Heroes and Villains list. Clarice is number 6 hero. So Buffalo Bill, just a nominated villain. All right.
Yeah.
I'm glad you said that every part was important thing, because I even like as I was having trouble watching the part, I wanted to have like criticism about it, and I was like, I can't even give the normal horror movie criticism. Like every minute of this scene was absolutely necessary. Like I couldn't change a second of it.
Yep.
You mentioned before that you think it was under rewarded, and I agree. Besides the big 5 that it won, it was only nominated for 2 other Academy Awards: film editing, which is really good editing,
I thought he was great.
and best sound, not cinematography, not
The
score.
music was good,
yeah.
Is that sound specifically just the music?
Sound is
Not music.
more of a technical I think it's a tech. What I'm trying to say is it's a technical category. Score is like the music that's happening during
The
it.
music was great, especially during the opening scene. And yeah, the cinematography was just awesome. The whole time Greg and I were like, oh my God, the cinematography like makes
The camera work is amazing. So only 7 nominations. That's 3 less than Mank.
You kidding me, Mike?
Yeah, and how many did
So
Mank
it's
get?
like 70% of a Mank.
It's about
Wow.
man.
Wow.
And people always just say like you couldn't cut a minute out of Mank.
No wasted space in Mank.
The whole time I was watching Mank, I couldn't even guess how long it was.
Mank
We'll
did-
tell you about Mank separately out of this podcast.
Mank only
we've
won
had
2,
Mank
but it
stories.
did win cinematography.
Oh man.
Yeah. So
So it was. This one was picture, actor, actress,
director and adapted
and
screenplay.
screenplay. Yep.
Yep. That's the big 5. Screenplay, you can be an adapted or original.
Yep.
Yeah, you're not given a demerit for being.
They should have won both.
It's not possible to get both. Mank almost did because it was made. It was adapted, and then also he writes an original screenplay during it.
Oh,
Okay.
Yeah,
sure.
it should have been nominated for
It
both.
should have been
Yeah.
nominated for both.
Snubbed.
Anyway, God, I was going to say something that would have transitioned us well into the next segment, and the Mank talk that you guys always want to talk about Mank.
I have Mank fever over here.
Oh, I remembered what I was going to say. So you
Gotta
guys,
get my Mank merchandise.
you guys have the just standard DVD 2-pack of Silence of the Lambs and Hannibal. I rented it from Amazon because it said it would be in 4K, and it was not really, but it was better than I tried to boot it up on Tubi.
Yep.
And the transfer was pretty bad there, but it was free there, so good for Tubi. All that to say, I don't know when this episode's going to come out. It's become kind of a mess. November, everything keeps getting rescheduled. We're recording this the week before Thanksgiving. As it stands now, this is the Thanksgiving episode.
Oh my god.
Perfect.
Oh.
I think I'm going to try to record something else. So
Lecter gets his full. He's
if this comes out,
was next week.
I know, right? It's crazy. It's early this year. If this comes out before November 29th, you should know that the Criterion sale at Barnes & Noble is happening right now. The Blu-ray with tons of special features for Silence of the Lambs is in there for $19. So I'm
Oh.
probably going to get that.
All right. I will borrow that from you. Oh, wait. I don't have a Blu-ray player. I guess I can't.
You're saying that like I'm somehow being owned. Like, I'm going to be the one.
Nobody has a Blu-ray player.
I'm going to be the one listening to Anthony Hopkins and Jodie Foster's commentary over the movie. That'll be me.
I do want to hear what Tony has.
I did start watching it for free as well, and they kept on putting in commercials right at the most
Oh.
suspenseful moments, and I
Brutal.
said, screw this 30 minutes in, and I gave Amazon $4 goddamn.
Yep, same thing. But Amazon is price matching, but just go to your support your local Barnes and Noble, and twice a year I think Barnes and Noble has a Criterion sale, and they're all 50% off. It only goes till November 29th though. So if you're listening to this after that, there's another Criterion sale coming soon, I hope.
Well, maybe we should get it because I just want to talk about
There's a lot of good stuff in there that isn't on streaming services usually. And I mean, Criterion editions typically look awesome and have tons of special features. And yeah, real good. I'm going to get some Wes Anderson movies to get ready for our Wes Anderson series.
Oh yeah.
Somebody should probably get on imaging that, because if we don't do it soon, it's all just going to be lost if it's not on streaming services already. Like,
Yeah, no, film industry is having a huge problem, just like video games are with archiving. It's a mess. So many movies are made and then disappear into nothing because to the popular collective consciousness of us in like a bigger sense. If it's not on an immediately available service, it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
But that's a pod for a different time. I have a silly, stupid game to play.
Let's get in this.
Pumped.
As you guys know, because I told you already, it's called Silence or the Lambs. I'm going to describe the plot of a movie, and you get to tell me if the title is related to sound, like if it has a word that has something to do with sound in it, or a farm animal.
All right.
Okay, sound or farm animal.
All right.
Sound or farm animal. And we'll say, so the two parts to this. One, you can all decide if you think it is if you think it's silence or lambs. And then after that, we'll tally up points from that. And then if you think you know it, if you guess correctly and you think you know it, you can get a bonus point.
Oh, okay. Like when we know what the actual title is.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha.
In this movie, a nanny acts out a marionette play about a lonely goat herd.
Lamb.
Sound.
Silence. No.
Silence.
Sound.
Silence
it?
or lambs?
Silence. It's silence.
Silence.
Lambs.
Lambs.
Silence.
It is silence.
I know it.
Do you think you know it too?
I think so. I'm going to give a random guess, but Ray probably.
I don't know if there's. I'm not realizing now if two of you want to guess, there's no way to like tell who's. I guess it's just honor system.
Just honor system. We're fine.
Yeah.
Sound of Music.
I was going to say The Sound of Music, but it was a random ass guess, so give it to Ray.
Okay.
No, I say honor system. That's
yeah. If you were gonna get it,
yeah.
Oh, well.
you're gonna get it. So you both have 2. Greg has 0.
I've never actually seen The Sound of Music. That's why I just.
In this 1998 sequel, the main character travels to a fantastical metropolis that somehow contains all the world's landmarks in order to save his family's small business.
Okay, one more time.
Yeah, there's a lot in here. In this 1998 sequel, the main character travels to a fantastical metropolis that somehow contains all the world's landmarks in order to save his family's small business.
Lambs.
Yeah, fuck it, lambs.
I'll go with silence.
It's Lambs. Do either of you know what the movie is?
Clueless. Couldn't even guess.
Matrix.
It is Babe, Pig in the City.
Oh my god.
Oh my god.
Wait, what would Matrix have to do with lambs?
I don't know.
It's supposed to be a farm animal.
I mean, I don't know, man. This is your guess. All right, so 2, 1, 3.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. A movie that includes a memorable scene in which a character speaks directly into another's ear after removing it.
Definitely have not seen this.
What the?
I feel like this is definitely a trick.
Is this about Van Gogh?
Lambs.
Greg goes with Lambs.
Silence.
Ray goes with Silence.
I'm gonna go lambs again.
It is Lambs. And do you know what movie it is?
No, absolutely not.
Shutter Island.
Reservoir Dogs. Dogs are on farms.
Gotcha.
There's
It's
dogs
not
on farms.
specifically
There are-
lambs.
No,
There's
it's
gonna
not
be a very, very narrow category.
Yeah, dogs are on farms. I made that
Yeah.
call.
That's fine.
Let's skip around. This early Tom Cruise movie is about a race car driver who makes a new friend.
Silence.
So Cruise. Sorry.
Yeah. This early Tom Cruise movie is about a race car driver who makes a new friend.
Silence.
Ray and Greg went with Silence.
Give me the lambs.
Robbie goes Lambs. It is Silence. Do you know the name of the film?
No, absolutely not. I'm just guessing.
That is Days of Thunder.
Oh right, yeah. Days of Thunder.
Yeah.
Pretty big. He makes a new friend. I was hoping that would make you think it's a dog or something.
Wow.
All right, so you're keeping track of your own points, right?
Yeah, I got my points here.
2?
4?
3.
Yeah. Okay. Then.
2, 3, 4?
Yep.
Okay. Ray started really
Wait,
strong.
no, 3, because I got that last one right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. 3, 3, 4?
Yeah.
3, 3, 4. Okay. A Scandinavian couple has a kid, kind of, in this recent creepy drama about family.
Lamb.
I mean, if I say lamb too, I see Insecure my lead. So lamb.
It is Lambs. Do you know what the name of the movie is?
Is it Stuart Little?
I don't know.
Midsummer.
It's not Stuart Little. It's called Lamb.
I knew it. I should just guess lamb again.
Nope.
Yeah, I thought you guys had it because you said lamb so quickly and not plural
It was
lambs.
a couple having a kid, sort of. And I was like, oh.
Sort of.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's got a kid body, goat head. So,
Yeah.
or sorry, lamb head, like it's called
Right.
lamb.
Okay.
Nope, I had no idea what it was.
Same same distribution company as Midsommar.
No.
Also creepy
I
like
just-
Midsommar.
You said Scandinavian, so.
You got close.
Yeah.
You got close. This 1996 genre classic begins with a former child star taking a phone call. The actor is a former child star, not the character. This 1996 genre classic begins with a former child star taking a phone call.
It's Silence.
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 It is Silence. Anybody know the movie?
Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Scream.
Home Alone.
Scream.
Again, why my guesses have nothing to do with either Silence
Yeah,
or
mine didn't
Lambs?
either. All I
I
could
don't
think
know.
of was-
Just stop doing that.
I don't know.
They're real bad guesses.
Like, I feel like there's a lot of hints in the way the game is formatted, but
I know. I just didn't have any guess, so.
Scream is a sound, so, you know.
Yeah.
So Greg got 2 points that round. The rest of you got 1. Where do we stand?
6.
6.
5, 6, 6? Okay. Ray with 5, Greg with 6, Robbie with 6. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 left. How's that possible?
Well,
How
I've
many
got
have we
some
done?
wrong, so I don't know.
Ben has
I
a
haven't
list. of
scrolled up or
questions.
down. It's the same page. I don't know what's happening.
Is this a Google Sheet? Is Corey fucking with us?
Yeah. A lightly political comedy that includes a scene of a character going on MTV's Rock the Vote and yelling, "Kill Whitey." It's one of 3 movies that seminal film critic Gene Siskel has walked out on. That's a hint. It's really bad.
Okay, go again. Sorry.
A lightly political comedy that includes a scene of a character going on MTV's Rock the Vote and yelling, "Kill Whitey."
I'm going to go with Lamb.
Silence.
Lamb. Silence.
Neither. No, I'm gonna go with Lamb.
It is Lamb. Do you guys know the name?
Has something to do with, like, I don't know, elephant and something?
Well, how many farms do you know with elephants on them?
Donkey.
Animal Farm.
It is called Black Sheep. It's a David Spade, Chris Farley movie.
Bitch.
It's like, I figured you guys
Yeah. No, we could have
Nope.
gotten that one.
could have got it, but you both get a point.
Okay.
You know, I was sitting there. I was like, "This can't be named after a farm animal." I was like, "Unless it's like black sheep or something." There's no way it's gonna be named after a farm
you
animal.
could just guess. Just a phrase with an animal in it. 667?
Mhm.
Okay, cool. In this, so I'm going to say it's an upcoming movie. As we're recording it, it's out on Friday on Netflix. At the very earliest, it'll be a few days ago on Netflix if this comes out next Monday. On November 19th, this movie's coming out. The main character deals with the pressure of creating something important while there's still time.
Silence.
Lambs.
Silence.
It's Silence. Do you guys know the name of this movie that is, I think, technically playing in some theaters, but is out on November 19th on Netflix?
The Sound of Silence.
When you say it, I'll probably know.
Boom.
So close.
Bam.
Pop.
It's called Tick, Tick, Boom.
Give her a third.
A
of
third
a
of a
point.
point.
You got one of, well, there's an ellipsis in there too, but
Fourth of a point.
fourth of a point.
I said the ellipsis. You just didn't.
Oh yeah, I did. You did wait a while before saying boom.
Right.
So yeah, you can have a third of a point. All right, where do we stand?
I have 6.
You've been stuck on 6 for a bit.
7
8.
Yeah,
and a third.
8. Because, yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
In this 1973 animated adaptation, the title character helps the main character avoid death through written messages. So there's a few things going on in that one.
Yeah, say that again.
In this 1973 animated adaptation, the title character helps the main character avoid death through written messages.
Lambs.
Lambs. And I know
Lambs.
it.
I don't know it.
It is Lambs.
Charlotte's Web.
It is Charlotte's Web.
Oh,
Would you have gotten it? Okay.
Maybe if I thought for a long time.
man, I was thinking Disney.
I think there's 2 left. So,
Sorry about that.
Robbie, I think, has a pretty sizable lead at this point.
10. Ray behind by 2 and
If Robbie misses both of these, though, and I get them both and the bonus points, this is my game.
He's got it.
So 10, 7, 8 and a third.
Sure.
Second last. This Martin Scorsese historical epic from 2016 centers on 2 Portuguese priests who travel to Japan. So it's a 2016 movie from Scorsese. It's a historical epic, and it centers on 2 Portuguese priests who travel to Japan.
I'm going silence.
I'm going
I was gonna go
silence.
silence.
Wait, no, I'm going to go Lambs.
Silence.
Silence, Lambs, silence. It is Silence. Do you know what the name of the movie is?
Whisper.
Close. The name of the movie is Silence.
Damn it! I was close.
You were both pretty close. Ray is within a 1 2/3 points, so you need to get both points on this one, and Robbie needs to miss. This 2003 kids movie is an infamous box office bomb that's set in the Australian outback.
Oh, I got it. It's animals, and I know the movie. Sorry.
Lambs.
Lambs.
Kangaroo Jack.
It's Kangaroo Jack.
Wow.
Oh.
And if you're questioning it, I looked it up. I didn't look it up. And kangaroos farm animals in Australia.
Kangaroo
Yeah.
on farm. I don't
Yeah,
know.
well,
It's a bit of a
clearly you've never
stretch.
been to a farm in Australia.
Guess not.
That's pretty hilarious.
Yep.
Oogie loves?
Very
that you?
I was like, is that a sound?
That's why. Yeah. I was like,
No, it was
what's
like
that?
2003. That's way too early.
All right.
Yeah,
So
that's-
Robbie is the champion of Silence or the Lambs.
There was only one horrible movie in the Outback around that time.
Yeah, not a good one.
Not a good one. There's some pretty amazing scenes that feel like fever dreams now that I'm thinking about it.
It's supposed to be a kids movie, but has
wait, you've
as the
seen it?
Wikipedia
Oh, yeah.
says, lots of innuendo.
Yeah. So
are
I
non-kid
haven't seen
friendly
it. So when we do that episode, it'll be a nice change. That'll be one Robbie has seen that I
Oh,
haven't seen.
God.
I think it
I
actually.
need to know what kind of movies Robbie has seen and confused about.
Silence of the Lambs, nah. Kangaroo Jack, though? That shit's hopping.
Kangaroo Jack has a. Do you want to guess what it has on Rotten Tomatoes?
10.
Oh, it's not out of 10.
No. I mean,
Right.
It's a percentage.
yeah, no, 10%.
17.
8.
Oh.
Single digits.
Closest without going over.
Yeah, Ray got that one.
The critical consensus. The humor is gratingly dumb, and Kangaroo Jack contains too much violence and sexual innuendo for a family movie.
So bad.
All right, we Spirited Away, Silence of the Lambs. Next podcast is Kangaroo Jack.
Wow.
Has to start with an S for you guys all the time, but maybe we can't do Kangaroo Jack then. I don't know.
Kangaroo.
Well,
that's a-
no, as long as Skankaroo
it's
Jack.
anything that you consider a perfect movie we can do. So we're just
Yeah, that's it. I don't
best
have a lot
movie
of
on the pod.
I don't have a lot of perfect movies left in me.
The
but,
Shining is the next one, S.
Huh?
Oh wow, that is pretty much a perfect movie.
That is a good one. That's also one I have not seen.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's get the ending clean because I think I'm going to cut a lot of that.
Hell yeah.
Thank you guys so much for being on. Ray, Greg, Robbie. I appreciate you guys doing this, obviously. And yeah, I don't know. Let's go watch Silence of the Lambs. It's a good movie.
Yep. They've stopped screaming for me.
Okay.
Okay.
I don't believe you.
No. I hear them every night.
Oh, that's me.